It is your PrisonPlanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal.
Welcome to the Alex Jones Show. It is Thursday, April 4th, 2013, and we are on the verge of war in North Korea. That is the emphasis of the topic today, but a lot of discussion happening here on the Alex Jones Show. This is Mike Adams, the guest hosting for Alex, but Alex is here in studio right now, and we'll be dropping in from time to time with special reports and breaking news on North Korea. We've got a couple of guests today, three in fact. Two of them talking about important decentralized, self-replicating food self-reliance technology that you will need if war breaks out and if martial law is declared and things begin to really implode. We've also got a guest on geoengineering coming up in the third hour. But again, the main emphasis today is North Korea on the verge of war, threatening America with nuclear strikes. And here to tell us what's going to be happening in that realm is Alex Jones. Alex?
Mike, absolutely. I was going to come in today and work on some of the administrative things in the new studio that you can see they're building over there and all the work we're doing. But we were talking last night, and you're like, you really want me to do the show tomorrow? Because all this North Korea stuff, and you're absolutely right, this is incredibly important. And you also have the calls to censor the internet going on, not just here, but in Europe, trying to mirror the communist Chinese. So we've got those attacks going on. And we're going to talk about senior advisor Dan Pfeiffer. This is the senior advisor to the president. This is who the globalists, tell Obama what to do through. This is the guy that helps load the teleprompter. This is the guy that chooses the speeches predominantly that Obama is going to have loaded into his teleprompter. He is bemoaning on C-SPAN the Drudge Report. And when he attacks the Drudge Report and tells the media not to go read it, but it doesn't have the power it used to, because it has more power.
Right.
It shows that they're scared of the entire alternative media, and it also shows that we're having an effect, because they're not all powerful. They want to be in big glistening glass buildings and marble buildings and millions of troops in black uniforms and armored vehicles and bullets to intimidate those of us that are awake. But then to deny to the public that all this exists. So also at the start of the third hour, we have that 10-minute report proving the New World Order is real and showing their hoaxes that premiered on the nightly news last night. We're going to premiere that on the radio side today at 1:08, the start of the third hour. Then you've got your geoengineering expert coming on. Again, they say geoengineering doesn't exist. Now they admit there's giant government secret programs that we told people about 17 years ago. So all of that and more. But I've followed the Korean conflict from the 50s and Eisenhower and the rest of it. I follow it very closely. We've always known it may be the trigger for World War III. As Lindsey Williams' sources said, the Middle East is a distraction. It's important, but watch China, North Korea.
Skousen's talked about it.
This is the real trigger. And I respect Skousen, but he could be wrong. This trigger could come sooner rather than later. I think this probably is insane rhetoric to get more oil and food. But the point is that Kim Jong-un is completely out of his mind.
He is, absolutely. And
China's rebuking him right now, and that's really unprecedented. North Korea last night when we talked, had just issued their own fatwa. North Korea approves a nuclear strike on the United States, says they're preparing, and they also say they have frogs, or short-range tactical nuclear weapons that they're going to use. And we know that Russia's been involved with them decades ago. They may have frogs, or they may be used, or they may be pushed by China that at higher levels working with the Illuminati and the globalists. Again, China isn't run by the U.S. It's run by the New World Order and the communists, just like we are.
Right.
Okay, or the oligarchs who use communism. It's really a eugenics state. Communism is just a label, a slave state. And so the fact that Donald Rumsfeld helped transfer in 1996 the ABB reactors from Switzerland that could build fissile material or produce fissile material for A-bombs, the fact that Laura Allen Hughes through China helped give them the ICBM technology. The globalists have armed North Korea. for this role? Is it coming early? We always said they'd break out with a giant war, as Rand Corporation called for, during the economic collapse. So if this heats up, you know the economic collapse is around the corner, Mike.
And they're specifically threatening to nuke Austin, by the way. Another interesting twist to their litany of threats. This is the Alex Jones Show. We'll be right back with Alex and other guests straight ahead. Stay with us. Welcome to the Alex Jones Show on this Thursday, April 4th, 2013, as the nation stands on the verge of potential war, or at least the threat of war. This is all breaking news and special reports here on the Alex Jones Show. Alex is in studio and will be delivering that special information here in just 1 minute. We've got missile defense systems being sent to Guam now. The United States is taking these threats seriously as North Korea's psycho leader, Kim Jong-un, says he's going to nuke America, including cities like Austin. Alex is here with special reports to give us a breakdown of what's happening, and then we'll have guests on at the bottom of this hour and the next hour. But let's go right to Alex with the latest on North Korea.
Absolutely, Mike. Thank you. Here's just some of the headlines. And this is unprecedented in the 60 years since the armistice was signed at the end of the Korean War. This is unprecedented, this type of rhetoric. And even though it may be rhetoric, and we hope it's rhetoric, this is unprecedented. There are criminal globalist forces that manipulate the U.S., Europe, China, and are pushing them all towards an authoritarian system. Our government's trying to adopt Chinese-style policies of one child and internet censorship and kill switches. And that's because the globalists went in and put Mao Zedong in power. And the reason I talk about China when I talk about North Korea is because the New World Order controls and manipulates the communist Chinese regime to a great level. So the New World Order steers and controls China, and China steers and controls, to a great extent, the puppet state, the kamikaze state of North Korea, the Stalinist state that literally is the most oppressive probably in world history, and certainly the most delusional. And it's important to add that ABB was headed up in 1996 by Donald Rumsfeld, who got authorization from Bill Clinton and also the United Nations to transfer reactor types that can be easily used to build and create the fissile material for atomic bombs. So I'm giving people some backstory here that we've always known that North Korea is the real trigger to look at, not even the Middle East, for a true new world war. And remember, 2 years ago, Rand Corporation said, we need a global war to smokescreen the economic implosion, to get people to rally behind all their governments, from China to Europe to the United States to England to Australia especially, so that everyone will get behind their governments during this crisis. So,
but that's the key, is that the New World Order can use this. I'm sorry to interrupt, but they can use this outbreak of war to then unleash the economic collapse, to, for example, call in the dollar if they wanted to, replace it with another currency.
Exactly.
Rip everybody off who's got savings. Do what Cyprus did.
War is the health of the state.
Absolutely. So
all of our experts, including you, Gerald Celente, myself, all of them have concurred that when they start the real global meltdown, they're going to start huge wars. Yeah. And they're lining the Middle East up for that, putting Al-Qaeda in everywhere. And then we'll be conspiracy theorists when we hold up AP, Reuters, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now, when there's a giant war in the Middle East. I mean, there's already proxy wars. And we'll say, look, the government put Al-Qaeda in, and they'll say, how dare you, traitor, say that when our men are dying fighting them. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, do you believe, now we know that North Korea has nuclear bombs. They've been testing them. They just tested one, I think, in December, right? They've been testing long-range cruise missiles. But do you believe that they have the ability to put the nuclear warheads on the missiles yet that can reach America? We
don't know. China could use them as a proxy. The Russians, we know, worked with them decades ago. The Russian border is actually very close to North Korea. They have a railway system that goes in and out of North Korea. But again, the globalist could be using the Chinese to give orders to Kim Jong-un to act like this, saying, oh, you're going to get your food and oil like you always do doing this, but this rhetoric's probably 3-4 times what it's ever been. And then they could do a false flag.
Right.
And then say they did it and start World War III.
The U.S. government or
the globalists, the criminal elements, criminal elements, yes.
Nuke a U.S. city and blame North Korea, saying North Korea brought in suitcase nukes or something like that.
Our government's been digging in like there's going to be a total collapse in America and they're going to have war with the people. Yep. They'll then use that as a smokescreen to go after us. Or they may just stage terror attacks and blame it on patriot groups. I mean, White House advisors have said that. We'll have a new Oklahoma City and blame it on you. 1 micron from admitting they did it. And remember, the current Attorney General was the Deputy Attorney General with Oklahoma City, and the emails came out in lawsuits about how he was covering it up. Now, let's stop right there. Let me give people the headlines. North Korea moves missiles within considerable range to East Coast. Here is another headline. North Korea, AFP, approves nuclear strike on United States and says prepare for the missiles to hit you. Now, I know the globalists are evil, and they'd like us to live like North Koreans. So I'm not saying, hey, we're good, North Korea's bad. Globalists are manipulating this. But listen, under international law, common law, the fact that he says we're aiming missiles, prepare for them to go off, he said, quote, we're going to hit you, prepare for the explosions, they should be hit right there.
Absolutely.
They should be. I mean, if somebody comes to my house and says, I've got a gun, I'm about to shoot you, I've got a right to kill you. So I'm telling you, right now, they should use all the space planes with the DU Sabos to decapitate him. Yeah. And by the way, I'm sure
those. Yeah.
But listen, that's not happening. They're going to let them, whether it's this year or 2 years from now, and I agree with Joel Scalzo, maybe 5 years from now, they're going to start World War III with this little creature.
So what about? So he's being manipulated, possibly, but he's also
and the globalists gave him the atomic bomb material.
Right. Right.
They got primitive weapons.
What about internal pressures in North Korea? Is Kim Jong-un being forced into a radicalization of his own policy because of his own military wanting him to be strong or be overthrown?
Well, that's part of it, and but I mean, compared to his father or his grandfather, I mean, these are quotes out in the official. I don't just believe our media or French news agency when they say this. I went and looked up the official, and they put it out in English. Their information ministry of the Stalinist state, and they said, we're preparing to strike you, prepare for the explosions now, we're going to hit you. And then they show maps with where we're sitting targeted.
Yeah, right, Austin.
Now, they probably can't hit us with their ICBMs. Undoubtedly, they've got DC-10s with chemical lasers circling 100 miles off that can shoot these down. They've probably been shooting the ones down that they've been trying to, quote, launch over Japan. So I'm going to say this. They've had DC-10s for 20 years, declassified, that can vaporize with chemical lasers, and the newer ones have cyclotrons added onto them, so they're chemical weapons. Excuse me, particle beams, not chemical weapons. These are chemical laser.
Yeah, chemical laser.
With a cyclotron on top. And I mean, these are lasers that are the whole length of the plane.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Right.
And so, I mean, the declassified stuff was vaporizing armored missiles, 20 years ago. So if a missile gets through, okay, I'm going to be very suspicious because, A, he's got, 1970s piece of junk type ICBMs.
Nothing they build ever works.
The Stalinist state can't even produce automobiles.
Right.
The globalists have given them everything they've got. It's very hard to get one of these into orbit, much less back in. And so if it doesn't get shot down, the globalists have some explaining to do.
But they could put a portable nuke, a suitcase nuke, on a container shipping out of South Korea to, for example, the port of Seattle. And they could detonate it.
Well, that's the new real threat. And so instead of boarding Syrian craft and Russian craft who are getting small arms to protect themselves, against Al-Qaeda, which our government's doing, they're boarding those to stop even machine guns being shipped to Syria. All North Korean vessels should be boarded everywhere.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they shouldn't even be allowed to leave their port because, as you said, that's the new threat. Associated Press, they're saying they have small tacticals that can be delivered in unconventional ways, i.e. barges. And they ship goods into South Korea and into China, which actually come here. So I'm calling for an embargo of all Chinese goods because you can't trust these containers.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Also, the false flag element. Again, the globalists could detonate a nuke in a container 10 miles off the coast of Oregon or Washington
or Long Beach, just get into the port. They don't even search them.
And then they could say, well, that's the excuse. It's martial law.
That's it.
The hammer comes down.
That's it.
And by the way, then you can't buy bullets, guns, magazines, food, anything.
I want to explain something about Kim Jong-un and Il and all these other demons. They, on record, kidnap stars of South Korea and Japan, and they have B movie stars and C movie stars fly in. It's not just Dennis Rodman, to service them. And they've got all sorts of, torture palaces. I mean, these are incarnate what the globalists would love to be.
Yeah.
I mean, this is their Agenda 21 plan, total deindustrialization, total hell, tiny subcompact cities that have power, the rest of the country dark, the public literally living in like the 15th century. The people there don't even know what planet they're on, basically.
Well, I thought you were describing Austin just there for a second. I think he won't nuke Austin because that's his fan base.
Yeah, all these sick trendies that think it's funny. Now, shifting gears to the...
Sorry to interject you.
No, you're absolutely right.
Topic.
Shifting gears here to something I want to talk about. The alternative media is under attack because we are the real media. When we come back from break, I want to go to this clip, and then you can get on to your next guest. Going to have a lot of important stuff to cover. And I'll be back at the start of the next hour with updates. And we got the special report at the start of the third hour on them denying there's a new world order, and we're going to show some clips of that.
And if anything else happens in the meantime, you'll be here immediately to break it down.
Absolutely. And people call everybody you know. Tell them to tune in because here's the message. Here's the message. The Drudge Report is at the very top of the liberty pyramid. Not to use an Illuminati term. That's how they look at it.
Yeah.
At the very top is Matt Drudge and drudgereport.com. Okay. If they can take him down, or if they can demonize him, or if they can discredit that site, which all it does is link to a wide spectrum of news, mainstream, alternative, government documents, our stuff, everything. If they can take him down, it's not just that it has the most traffic of any news website in the world. It's that it's setting the agenda. I've been in newsrooms, CNN, Fox, talk radio. You see it on the news all the time. In the background is Drudge. Yeah. Because they're so unimaginative. Drudge has a real pulse on what a normal guy who loves liberty is into. That's what you see there, his team of a couple guys. Okay? They know what's real. They know what's important. They've got a sixth sense. They're really smart. And so all they're doing is linking to a wide spectrum of news. And it scares the White House that they don't control the narrative because they run ABC, NBC, CBS. They're blackmailing Fox right now with the phone hacking stuff, with Justice Department investigations. You see the Media Matters run by the White House saying they're going to bring down alternative media. They want to get into all our organizations and destroy us. They're on record. So now the senior White House guy has said, quote, the Drudge Report hurts what we're trying to do. What I'm explaining is when you get to the resistance, the fact is we're in the fight. The Drudge Report, Infowars.com, everything we're doing is because it's not just Drudge more and more, we're able to set the agenda. We'll come back and break it down.
All right, we're back. This is the Alex Jones Show. Mike Adams here sitting in with Alex in studio. Go ahead, Alex.
And again, you've got your guests coming up. We'll be back for the first 20 minutes of the next hour with the latest info on North Korea. They are threatening to nuke, and not just threatening, saying prepare for the detonations. Yeah, and our government and the globalists, as usual, gave them all the weapons, just like they're putting al-Qaeda in charge. And now they're going to use this threat to take our liberty. Now, in the backdrop of this, I've explained to people, I've had the White House directly respond to us repeatedly on the Piers Morgan petition, on how they're trying to shut down coal power plants, saying I'm crazy. That was Carney that responded. I've had them respond to me many times directly, but hundreds of times through their surrogate Media Matters, which is publicly run by their former transition chief, and is a saboteur group. In their own words, they say, we will get hired, we will infiltrate. Politico's basically another group. So all of this is going on. My point to listeners is we need your prayers. We need your financial support. We need to be big and strong. We need you to spread the word about drudgereport.com, Infowars.com, naturalnews.com, worldnetdaily.com. I'd say Newsmax, but they kind of faded off. I mean, still, you know, all these groups, because look, Drudge isn't perfect. I'm not perfect. All of us disagree with stuff. I disagree with some stuff a day after I say it in hindsight or how I said it. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, little Alex Jones, little Matt Drudge, little Mike Adams. I mean, sure, we're big hearts. We love liberty, but we're little guys. Yeah, we're individuals. We're individuals. But this is an example to the power you have that the head White House advisor, the head, this is the real president. This is above Karl Rove under Bush. You know, this is what's loaded in the teleprompters, what Obama does. Okay, says, quote, Drudge hurts what we're trying to do. Which is to control and disinform. Yeah, and folks, by the way, they killed Breitbart. I mean, there's undoubtedly the way they did everything. Listen, they could kill me tomorrow. Okay, and let me tell you, we need to, if anything happens to Drudge, you need to know, which it's not because we're talking about it. But this isn't a game, okay? Okay, I get death threats at home where they tell me what my wife was talking about on the phone with her dad, okay? This is real. Okay, so I want to get this through your head. Let's go ahead and play this clip. Here he is on C-SPAN. This is up on Infowars.com right now. It rolled off Drudge because he doesn't like talking about himself. But I'm going to. This is on Infowars.com right now. Business Insider. This is him talking about Drudge and how it's dangerous. They've got to have an iron fist of control because they can't control the media, and what they do might get picked up by Drudge. And you know, he's discredited, though. He has no power. When all Drudge will do is show what they said. That's why he's so powerful.
He's the ultimate power.
He just the truth. He just shows what they did.
Yeah.
He doesn't even, no one ever sees him or hears him. It's them.
Right.
He just shows them going, we're going to get your guns. Once we get these registered, I'm going to take them all. Drudge links to our article.
Yeah, Drudge doesn't even write his own articles. He just links.
It's like, look, this is what they said. And they're scared of that because they want it in their context.
They can't control him.
He's breaking the electronic Berlin Wall. He's the biggest hole in their wall.
Drudge has no boss.
That's it.
And no investors.
Look how globalist control groups have bought up the company that Rush Limbaugh's under.
Yep.
Look at how they've done. And I know they're putting pressure on him and others. I know the inside scoop. I mean, let me tell you. We're totally independent like Drudge.
Exactly.
There is not much out there, folks. Listen, you better appreciate this. Okay, let's go ahead and go to this clip. Here is
There's not the idea of iron-fisted control gives us a lot more credit than we deserve. I think the fact of the matter is that in this day and age, people are more cautious about talking because there is a tendency to, you know, for some of the press to be a sort of on 24-hour gas patrol. And so, you know, if you're an undersecretary at the Energy Department and you're doing an interview and you say one thing, you know, you could end up being on the front page of Drudge, being...
you guys love Drudge.
I'm not the only one up here.
No, but why does it drive conversation in your world the way it seems to?
Well, it's not that it drives our conversation in our world. I'm fairly ambivalent to what Drudge puts up on a daily basis, but it I mean...
Well, I'm going to have to come back. I know you got your guest, but for a couple of minutes, I want to play it unedited, you know, the whole clip as we're going up against a break. And I want to explain to people what he's really saying. Yeah. No one else will challenge them when they do outrageous criminal stuff. But Drudge will keep linking to the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, you know, engaged in fraud until she gets fired. Or he will link to the filibuster of Rand Paul when the media was going to ignore it, and then it breaks big. Or he will keep linking to the bullet story at fed.biz when they're saying it doesn't exist and show them as a pack of criminal liars. And what I'm saying is, there's not many people we've got. I hope the viewers understand. Folks, it's Infowars.com. It's DrudgeReport.com. At that level, and Drudge is way above us, but after him, we're about it. Then there's Natural News. And the point is, it's scary to be going up against people like this. Do you understand? I mean, this is real. These people kill people. Okay? I mean, they're the new world order coming for our guns. And understand, love us or hate us, we're your champions in armor. You know, 300 folks up against the whole New World Order army in the gap, and we're calling for reinforcements. Do you get how hardcore this is? We'll be back with Mike Adams. History is happening, and the enemy knows. We know who they are.
All right, you're back on the Alex Jones Show. This is Mike Adams sitting in with Alex Jones in studio. Go ahead, Alex. What's on your mind?
No, it's just we're chomping at the bit here. You were just telling me during the break, you're going, we really are it. And it's creepy to know the White House daily is attacking me by name through their surrogates, but also sometimes by name. Yeah. And I was talking about, yeah, you know, they've tried to buy me out before, tried to give me these big offers. You were just offered Glenn Beck level money. I mean, we're talking, you know, upwards of $10 million to sell out to the New World Order. You've been offered national TV shows because let's face it, you're a lot better looking than I am, and just as articulate. I mean, you're a star, Mike Adams, but you're not trying to be a star. You have moved out here in Texas. You've got your factory. You've got 50 caliber rifles. You want the spirit of liberty.
I don't have 50 caliber rifles. I have mud on my pants. Look at this. I was.
You do too. You brought yours in here. Everybody knows that.
Making that up.
Anyways, let's just get back to what I was saying. The point is, we want liberty. Yeah, that's what we want. We want destiny and freedom, and they just don't know how to deal with that. And so it's estimated the Drudge Report could sell for probably $300 million. But it would just be worthless in a month if it wasn't Matt Drudge running it.
I mean, none of us can sell out because we're not doing this for money. And what would you even do with the money? The minute you have, let's say you had $10 million in your bank account, what would be the point of having it, especially when they're going to collapse the money supply anyway? They're eroding it every day. But even if you had the money, what would you want to do? You'd want to start what we're doing now to tell the truth.
But here's the paradox. I'm going to play this clip and get out of here for your guest that's waiting to come in, and I'll be back for 20 minutes the next hour ahead of your next guest. Mike Adams, it comes down to this. I love my children. even if I was an evil person, I would be against the New World Order because it's going to be destructive of humanity.
Right.
I'm not stupid, but I happen to be a person that loves liberty and loves freedom. But the issue is for viewers, instead, here I am turning down even more than what Mike was talking about over the years. I mean, Mike's the real deal. I mean, he's had major computer companies, software, publishing all over the world. He doesn't brag about how big he is. I don't really talk about how big we are, but I'm literally here selling color magazines at cost, trying to get the word out. I'm here saying, please buy ProPure water filters from us at cost at InfoWarsStore.com with promo code WATER to just be able to spend $6.5 million a year and spend 90+% of the money that comes in here to run this operation and then have some backup cash. I could snap my fingers and have $50 million in here, but I'd have to kneel to Sauron.
Exactly.
I would no longer be who I was, so it's not even hard to turn it down, but it's frustrating to even, like, not be able to compromise a little to get a sponsor to fund things. To be moral is really hard. So my point is, we have the White House coming after us. We have all this stuff going on. If you would just buy the books, the videos, the tapes, be our sponsors, support us, you're buying war bonds, literally with soldiers in the gap facing the entire New World Order. We're it. Everybody else sold out. Everybody else got killed. Everybody else got destroyed. I mean, I'm telling you, folks, we are front line Alamo with the enemy climbing over. We're swinging muskets. You know, I'm running towards the powder room, ladies and gentlemen, okay, with bullets already in my back. I mean, and I'm telling you, up front, Colonel Travis is Matt Drudge. Right up there at the front, folks. Make no mistake, he's wearing the, you know, the colonel hat. Okay, I mean, the point is that's who everybody's going to be gunning for, and that's who they got when they first, you know, finally took over at the Alamo. So what you've got to understand here, ladies and gentlemen, is we don't ever explain to people the incredibleness of how big this is. Right. Make your point. We'll play this video.
Well, imagine the world without Matt Drudge and InfoWars. You'd be getting nothing but fake, fabricated CNN type of spin. Like, remember they did the Charles Jaco fake Middle East set back in the first Gulf War? It was
fake CNN. No. And listen, once they get rid of us, everyone else follows. They admit that.
That's right.
They're going to shut the whole web down.
Yep.
We hang together or we hang separate.
That's it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, it's just I want your guests to get in here. Here is the clip of the senior head White House advisor, the lead advisor to Obama. Okay, this is who the globalists go and tell what to do and what to load in the teleprompter. Says the Drudge hurts what we're trying to do. Again, we're the, and what's on Drudge? Report.com, Infowars.com, naturalnews.com. But also, he'll link to what North Korea said. He'll link to what the BBC said. It's getting you outside the bubble of what the corporate globalist media force feeds you, where you tune to the channels and it's all the same thing in the same order. Okay, let's go ahead and go to this clip now from C-SPAN where, and again, I already knew this, I already told you this, but here they are admitting they're scared to let any of their people talk about anything because they're scared of Drudge. They're scared of you. They're scared of you getting what they say unfiltered. Here it is.
There's not the idea of iron-fisted control gives us a lot more credit than we deserve. I think the fact of the matter is that in this day and age, people are more cautious about talking because there is a tendency to, you know, for some of the press to be a sort of on 24-hour gas patrol.
They don't control the narrative anymore.
You know, if you're an undersecretary at the Energy Department and you're doing an interview and you say one thing, you know, you could end up being on the front page of Drudge, being...
you guys love Drudge.
I'm not the only one up here.
No, but why does it drive conversation in your world the way it seems to?
Well, it's not that it drives our conversation in our world. I'm fairly ambivalent to what Drudge puts up on a daily basis, but it. I mean, this is less true now than it was before. But there's a Pavlovian
total lie
response from
totally obsessed with
some media outlets. It's like, why are you asking me about this? Well, it's on Drudge, you know, and so it's, you know, in some cases.
What do you say to that?
I sort of asked them to repeat them, you know, say that to themselves out loud again and think about it.
Say that out loud.
You know, and everyone's a little embarrassed about it, and it's always like my boss, you know, my assignment editor's on me about this. And so, but the example being that you know, that anyone saying anything can get caught up in the spin cycle
in the
a
real
way
media.
That
okay, that's enough of that garbage. You know. Full clip up at Infowars.com. It's already rolled off Drudge, at least when I looked during the break. Maybe we'll move it back to the top. I know he listens. But imagine, we say it's creepy. Can you imagine being Matt Drudge, how creepy that is? Oh, yeah. I mean, looking over your, you know, believe me, can you imagine stuff he goes through? So the point is, is that, folks, we're really walking point here. And I'm not asking for you to admire us. Just pray for us and support us, because believe me, we're walking through the valley of the shadow of death. We fear no evil, but we fear not getting our mission completed. And notice, you know, they're saying, oh, we ridicule. He's telling people, ridicule media when they go, hey, Dianne Feinstein says the goal is to ban all our guns once they're registered. Here's her video clip. Oh, don't answer that question. Laugh at them. You know, laugh at Charlton Heston in the grave. Like we're peer pressure driven, and when MSNBC's top shows have 1 million viewers, CNN 900,000, usually 500,000, there's 1 million people conservatively listening right now. Okay, and my shows, you know, maybe number 9, number 8 in talk radio. There's shows with 10 million listening. Rush Limbaugh right now. I mean, these people are trying to buy us out. They're trying to take over Limbaugh. And not that he's perfect, but if they can shut us down, it's over. I want you to bring in your next guest, and I'm sorry for cutting his time. Very important information. But Mike, again, this is an important point in history. They're not going to let you realize how important all of us are. You are spreading the word. They hate the fact that we now are controlling the narrative with the truth, and they want to ridicule us for it. When this scum traitors, criminals, ridicule us, they're doing criminal stuff. When they ridicule us, that's a badge of honor. These are the globalist occupiers who think they're going to come in here and laugh at us and say, oh, we're not trying to take your guns. There's no bullets. There's no armored vehicles. There's no GMO. It doesn't work anymore, scum. It doesn't work anymore, and we see you.
Like the 2 billion bullets story. If it wasn't for Drudge and InfoWars, that story never would have been
InfoWars breaks it. Drudge goes and looks it's real, starts putting it out. They say he's a liar.
And they deny the bullets.
And then that discredits them because we just keep hammering them because we're bigger than them.
And it's real.
They're acting like, they're like a chihuahua that thinks it can beat up a bull mastiff, except we're a bull mastiff that's trained to kill. And we're not going to let it just jump on
the truth.
Yeah.
That's it. If you report the truth, they can deny it and deny it, but eventually it comes out, and then they look like the
sure.
They are.
Your lab can get beat up by a mean chihuahua, because I have a lab and a chihuahua. It's the boss.
Yeah.
But if it goes up to a pit bull, it's lunch. And this chihuahua is snapping at us, and I'm like, hey, I outnumber you 50-1. I got giant teeth. Okay, I'm not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
The White House is a joke.
Sounds like the ravings of a fascist.
Thank you, Glenn.
That's what that sounds like.
Back popping on the Alex Jones.
And I'm a piece of garbage. All right. That's enough. That's enough.
All right.
Well, see, but he didn't like Breitbart either because he had his own thing. See, I want everybody, I want more Drudges, more Breitbarts. Because let me tell you, I want more soldiers beside me in the gap.
Absolutely. You don't want to be the only
Folks, join us in the fight now. Hey, bring in your guest. He's awesome.
Okay.
Hold him a little bit in the next hour, and I'll come in with like a 5-minute update because I want him to get his time.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Alex. Thanks for stepping in. And also, in the next hour, Alex will be back with more updates because things are happening very rapidly here. Now, here's what we're going to do. A guest that is joining us now is the founder of an aquaponic/hydroponic store in the Austin area.
He's not a sponsor yet.
He's not a sponsor yet. Yeah. Good point, Alex. No, I actually found Troy. Troy Smith is his name. He's the owner of Bright Ideas, B-R-I-T-E, bihydro.com is the website. And here's why this matters, and here's what this has to do with all the news today. If North Korea launches nukes, or there's some kind of a false flag nuke attack, or some other excuse for the system to start cracking down, martial law, you name it, they're going to control the food supply, because food is a weapon in the hands of the government. The restriction of food is a weapon. Now, most of you listening out there, you've taken steps to be prepared. You're survivors, you're preppers, you're well informed, so you probably have some stored food. You know, eFoods Direct is a sponsor here of the show. You probably have firearms and ammunition and other things to keep yourself safe and help keep your community safe against possible looters, for example. But do you have a way to keep growing food after your eFoods Direct runs out? Because it's a finite supply, and you can't buy an infinite supply. But an aquaponic system is a self-replicating, decentralized food production technology that I believe is now starting to make huge waves in the preparedness movement, the patriot movement, survivors, but also progressives are into it, because you could grow your own herbal medicine. You grow fish and food in the same system. And here to tell us more about it is Troy Smith, the owner of Bright Ideas. Welcome to the show, Troy.
Hello. Thank you.
Get a little closer to your mic there.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in. So tell us, first of all, what is the level of increased interest you're seeing right now in aquaponics?
Right now, Mike, it's really blowing up. The last 2 years, it's really increased, and last year, it's exponentially has just really blown up. Mainstream customers, we've got people from old ladies to micro farms that are now doing aquaponics. So it's really, really popular.
Now, for those who may not be familiar with what aquaponics really means and why this technology is so crucial for our survival, really, can you just briefly explain what the system is and why it's so amazing that it needs no soil, uses almost no water, and so on?
Right. Well, you're talking about a reservoir that's got fish. The fish are producing the fertilizer. Their fish poop is actually the fertilizer for the plants. The water is irrigated to the beds. Media beds is some of the ways that people grow. There's several different types of styles you can grow in. The way that we like to describe for people to grow is in the media beds using a flood and drain system. When the water reaches the beds, we fortify the beds with biology, with all types of microbes, bacteria, and fungi, and that breaks down the fish poop. Fish poop is ammonia. It's breaking down by the bacteria to nitrates, or for nitrites, then into nitrates, which is now plant food.
Right.
The plants suck that up. That clarifies the water, and then that recirculates back to the fish.
So let me break this down. So it's a self-cleaning system. It's cleaning the fish tank. Because normally, if people grow fish, let's say aquaculture, they have a problem with fish waste.
That's correct.
If they grow just plants, hydroponics, they have a problem with not having enough nutrients and then salt accumulation in the hydroponic solutions.
That's true. You have to constantly change out the water solution. In aquaponics, you do not have to do that.
So if you combine these two, fish and plants, together in the same system, they clean and nourish each other.
That's right. It's a synergy that works together.
And the bacteria are crucial.
Absolutely. The biology is something that you want to encourage. That's what gets the system going, and that's what keeps it going.
So a lot of people out there may have experimented with hydroponics, and they know that can be pretty tedious. They have to put in chemicals, put in fertilizers, and exchange water all the time. With aquaponics, you're not doing all that. It seems like you're mostly putting in fish food for the fish, and the rest of it is mostly taking care of itself.
That's right. With hydroponics, you're going to expend a lot of money on nutrient. You have to dump that nutrient solution every week. It does get costly, and that can be a problem to discard. With aquaponics, that water is something you don't want to discard. You simply have to top off the reservoir weekly, and you don't have to keep adding nutrients to the solution.
Now, people can, by the way, this is Troy Smith, everybody, from bihydro.com in Austin, Texas, but there are aquaponics retailers all over the nation, and there's a great book by Sylvia Bernstein, I believe.
That's correct.
On Amazon.com. It's called, what's it called? The
Aquaponics Guide.
Aquaponics Guide. That's the best book I've seen so far. This is really getting very popular because you can start this even in an apartment, correct?
Sure. Yeah, you can do it anywhere. You could do something as small as a 10-gallon aquarium and a 10 by 20 seed tray just to be able to experiment and show that you can grow, for instance, lettuce, something on a small scale. Yeah. You can then get the confidence to move up to larger systems, and we can help you with all that.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm building an aquaponic system, and I'm going to eventually have like a 2,000-gallon fish tank.
Very good.
And maybe 8 or 10 grow beds, the Rob Nash style big grow beds.
Right.
But here's another thing. For the listeners, again, because of what's happening today, North Korea threatening America with nuclear strikes, and Alex is going to be jumping in with more news about that in the second hour, by the way. The world is getting crazy. Things that you have relied on are not going to be as predictable or as reliable, and those include going to the grocery store to get your food. How does that food get there? It's driven thousands of miles on trucks using petroleum, using diesel fuel to get it there. That may not always work out. So are you seeing this from a lot of your customers, Troy, of the different reasons that they're getting into aquaponics?
Yeah, a lot of people just want to have peace of mind of what they're eating. A lot of people are aware of what is being put on their table today is not wholesome foods. So there's a large amount of people that are there for that reason. And then, of course, there's a self-sustainability. And we are about that. Gardening is obviously the largest part of self-sustainability, and aquaponics is, if you get off the grid with like solar power, you are truly self-sustainable.
That's a really good point. And I like what you mentioned about people concerned about what's going in their food, because here at InfoWars, Alex has covered, and I've covered also extensively, GMOs. and we've covered the things that are in your food. For example, a lot of fish in the ocean are contaminated. Even farm-raised fish are contaminated with heavy metals like mercury, sometimes cadmium, and other things that you can find in the fish out there. But if you grow your own food, literally, you know exactly what's in it and what's not in it.
That's right.
You can trust it at that point.
Yeah, so you have total control over that.
Well, so how easy is it for people to get started? I mean, I've seen aquaponic gardens growing in reclaimed bathtubs from the junkyard, or barrels, or just any container that people can find.
Right, and I agree. I encourage that. Like, for instance, April 15th in Austin is the bulk pickup day. I would encourage you, if you don't have a container that you can use, go down the street and find a container, something that's large enough to hold fish and water, a tray that's large enough to hold media, and bring those to us, and we'll drill that out, plumb it for you, give you the fittings and the pumps, and fill that with media. We can help you get the fish.
All right, stay with us. We're going to go to break, but stay with us, folks. We'll be right back here on The Alex Jones Show with more about self-reliance, food production systems, aquaponics, and then more breaking news next hour about North Korea. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this break. All right, welcome back. This is The Alex Jones Show. Mike Adams filling in for Alex, and he is in the building, and he will be back here in the studio in the next hour to give us more breaking news on what's happening with North Korea. And in the meantime, we're talking about self-reliance food technologies, and I've been doing a lot of research on this. You know, my nickname is the Health Ranger, and so I'm into health and growing your own food and being self-reliant and preparing in every way possible. So I began to do some research on what is the best system for people anywhere, anytime, to produce food so that they know what's in it and no one else can control them. If you have your own food, you are self-reliant. If you don't have your own food, you are a subject that can be controlled very easily by controlling the food supply. So I found BIHydro.com, Troy Smith, the owner of Bright Ideas here in Austin, Texas. Bright Ideas, B-R-I-T-E. BIHydro.com, who founded this store that is now in the center of the Austin aquaponics explosion. Word is spreading everywhere that you can grow your own food and fish, protein, easily, inexpensively, and safely. So Troy joins us in studio here for a couple more minutes to talk about this. So Troy, things are going crazy in the world. Now, I know you might not want to pay attention to all that, but it's happening. This is going to cause, I think, a rush of people into these kinds of technologies that can give them more security. Are you seeing, I mean, what are your thoughts on what's happening with North Korea, by the way?
Well, I think it's definitely something that we all need to take seriously. We should take precautions and be prepared. So those of us that want to take care of our families should get a plan, and feeding your family should be on the top of the list.
Absolutely. Are some people feeding themselves as much as like 50% of their diet off of these aquaponic systems at this point, or what are you hearing?
They certainly could from the veggies. The fish, it would take actually large tanks in order to provide that much fish.
Yeah.
But you can get a lot of benefit from getting the benefit of extra fish. Eventually, you're going to have more fish than you need, and those can be harvested, and obviously you can eat that.
So we are talking about what can happen is independent people producing food everywhere. This is also an important issue for urban food production.
Right.
So right now, a lot of urban food is really the crap food, excuse my language, but it's the worst food you could buy. It's the processed, MSG-loaded, aspartame, genetically modified garbage. So couldn't people, in a small amount of space in a city, they could be growing, even on a rooftop, they could be growing a significant part of their diet?
That's true, and with aquaponics, you can grow in a very dense situation. In soil, the plants compete for the nutrient that's in the soil, so they have to have more room for their root zones so that they can grow to their potentials. In aquaponics, you're delivering all the food and water to the roots, so you can grow very, very densely. You'd be very surprised in a small area how much you can really produce.
They were just showing footage there for those of you watching on PrisonPlanet.tv. That's footage, excuse me, that I shot at Bright Ideas here in Austin, showing the aquaponic grow beds and the grow media. You'll notice there's no soil in this system. Those are expanded shale rocks, basically. There's no soil. The water is recirculated, so you're not using up the water. Also, importantly, you're not using municipal water on these systems, because a lot of people don't realize crops today are grown in fluoridated water.
Right.
So, I mean, you're eating like concentrated fluoride in your plants in a lot of conventional crops.
That's right. So good source of water is very important. Something to think about. In conventional farming, you use a lot of water. The water goes through the water table. It evaporates to the environment. In aquaponics, you recirculate the water. You actually use 10% of the amount of water in aquaponics as you do in conventional farming.
1/10 the water. There you go. That's good news for those in LA, Arizona, dry, arid areas. Anyway, this is the Alex Jones Show. Mike Adams sitting in today. We'll be right back with more on food freedom technologies and breaking news on North Korea in the next hour. Stay with us. This is the Alex Jones Show. Welcome back to the second hour. Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, filling in here for Alex, guest hosting today. Alex is in the building and will be giving us special reports in the next few minutes. In fact, we've got Troy Smith here from Bright Ideas in Austin, and that's bihydro.com, just like it sounds, bihydro.com. And he's not a sponsor of the show yet, but we're going to try to talk him into no, oh no, we crashed your server, man. Oh no, your website's down.
Oh no. That's a good sign.
Yeah, well, as this grows, you're going to need to beef up your server, that's for sure.
That sounds good.
But for those of you listening, just try it again, in a few hours. So bihydro.com is down. This happens all the time. I'm telling you, the Alex Jones Show has a huge reach. You're reaching a lot of people. What do you want to say to the million people listening right now about aquaponics?
Aquaponics is growing. It's something that everybody can achieve. If people are out there thinking it's something that's too difficult and too complicated, it's very, very simple. We can set you up very easily. It's very, very easy to maintain. It's not going to take a lot away from your lifestyle. And
yeah, it's pretty much like once it's going, I mean, you have to cycle some things at first, but once it's going, it pretty much runs itself.
That's right.
Now, here's another thing from a nutritional aspect. Listen in, folks. This is crucial. You know the importance of trace minerals like selenium and chromium for proper blood sugar regulation, for example, or magnesium, zinc for immune system function. These minerals, and this was actually brought to my attention by your guy there, Jason, brilliant guy who works at your store, that if you actually are putting these minerals into your soil plants, then the minerals are being lost and they're not going into the plants. But if you add these minerals to an aquaponic system, because they're being recirculated in the water, your plants are going to uptake 90+% of the selenium, which means you eat those plants, you are in fact nourishing your body with those trace minerals that are missing in everyday foods.
Right, and that's why we encourage the media beds, because that's where you can fortify the beds. We like to encourage, for instance, green sand, Minerals Plus, rock phosphates, things of that nature. You can put all that right into the media beds, and getting that fortified is going to give you all those extra minerals.
That's crucial. All of my research, Troy, says that eating minerals in their inorganic forms, non-organic forms, like non-plant forms, is really not that beneficial to the body. Like magnesium oxide, for example, not that useful compared to something like magnesium malate, which is more bioavailable. But when you put minerals in the grow beds in an aquaponic system, the plants take them up and they convert them into bioavailable minerals, which is what keeps you alive, folks. I mean, you want to heal well, you want to be resistant to a biological attack or an epidemic outbreak, you want to be immune to the flu, you want to not have heart disease, not have cancer, you need to get these minerals into your system. Selenium prevents cancer and boosts brain function, prevents Alzheimer's and dementia. This is the technology to get the minerals into your body. It works.
That's right. Yeah, so there's no reason why you can't have a truly wholesome food. It doesn't cost a lot of money to fortify the beds. It's inexpensive amendments, so I encourage it.
Well, very good. I want to thank you, Troy. It's great having you here. I hope that your store does well. I hope your website comes back up eventually. You might want to call your webmaster when you leave here. Yeah, but Bright Ideas is the name of the store in Austin, Texas. And again, there are aquaponics/hydroponics everywhere across the country. So get the books, get the knowledge, so that you can be more self-reliant and you can actually nourish your body. You can grow medicinal herbs, you can grow antibacterials, antivirals, you can grow medicine, mineral-rich foods, you can grow it all, even in an apartment using no soil whatsoever. That's aquaponics. So thanks, Troy, for being here. It was great to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. All right, folks, stay with us. This is the Alex Jones Show. We'll be right back after this break with more breaking news from Alex Jones. Stay with us. Continuing with the second hour, this is the Alex Jones Show. Mike Adams co-hosting right now with Alex, who's in the studio here, breaking down more information, breaking news on North Korea, developments there. We've been talking about food independence and self-reliance. We've got more guests coming up, including a geoengineering guest in the third hour. But let's go to Alex now for more on North Korea and the prospect of war.
Absolutely. And this is breaking now. They're going to give me a print off of it and bring it in here. They're going to put it on screen here in just a moment. Fox News is reporting that a family, well, they're saying children were kidnapped, and then they cut to a shot of Infowars.com spray painted on a mailbox. Okay, and then they just imply that we're involved in kidnapping of children, and then you learn that it was the parents with their own kids not wanting CPS to have them. So, in fact, you cover some of the North Korea news. I'm gonna go get it pulled up.
All right, go ahead and get that pulled up. It's insane. The bottom line, folks, is that InfoWars gets blamed for everything. But this gets back to the same point that Alex was mentioning just in the previous hour, which is that the establishment wants to bring down and discredit Matt Drudge, Drudge Report, InfoWars, and Natural News, the website where I'm the editor, and so on, and WorldNet Daily, Joseph Farah over there. Why do they do that? Because they can't control us. We have no bosses. We are our own bosses. We answer to you, the audience. We answer to the readers, to the listeners. That's it. We don't have investors pulling our strings. We don't have someone who can control us because they have dirt on us. We are completely independent and passion-driven people who believe in liberty, who believe in telling the truth, who believe in whistleblowing and exposing the lies and fraud of the pharmaceutical industry or GMOs or politics or false flags. You name it. That's what we believe in, and we're going to be here doing it for as long as we can, no matter what the case. But getting back to North Korea, and Alex will be joining us here. He's out there talking to the crew right now about what's going on with that kidnapping. North Korea situation is, of course, escalating. The U.S. is now sending a missile defense system to Guam to defend against North Korea. But that doesn't even make sense because you don't just set these up in 24 hours. It probably won't be set up until, the year 2015 or something. North Korea's army said it has, quote, ratified an attack against the United States. Some of the actions they've taken over the past few weeks present a real and clear danger, says Hagel, U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel. Clear and present danger, to quote Tom Clancy's book title and movie title there. The Pentagon says it's also going to deploy a terminal high-altitude area defense missile system, the THAAD defense system, to Guam. We've got stealth bombers now doing some practice runs over in that area, it looks like, and we've got some Aegis cruisers heading that direction. Troops are being amassed on the border between North Korea and South Korea, and their absolutely insane leader, Kim Jong-un, is threatening everything. He says he's going to nuke Austin. He's going to nuke Los Angeles. He's going to nuke Seattle. Now, it is true that he's got nukes. The question is, can he actually launch them on missiles? Now, think about this for a minute. Why isn't the United States, why haven't we already taken out this guy? All right? Now, I'm not a pro-war type of guy. I'm not an interventionist type of guy. I lean more towards Ron Paul on these issues, but when you've got a nation like that that is directly threatening you, holding a gun to your head, a nuclear missile to your head, and saying we're going to launch missiles and actually broadcasting the targets where they're going to hit your cities with nukes, I mean, come on, what more excuse do you need, folks? You send a team in there and you take them out. You take out the leadership of North Korea, whether you do it on the ground or whether you do it from high orbit, secret space weaponry that the government's got. It doesn't matter. You take them out because it is an imminent threat. They have threatened to kill essentially tens of millions of Americans who live in the U.S. cities. So why are we doing nothing in North Korea? Why are we spending all our military assets in the Middle East? Remember when even those people never even really directly threatened us. Bush had to invent the evidence to justify an attack on Saddam Hussein. I mean, it was all fabricated. You know, the yellow cake, the weapons of mass destruction, it was all fabricated. But yet when there's a real threat from North Korea, who really does have nukes because they've been testing them, that's confirmed. When there's a real threat, the U.S. does nothing? What's our military for if it's not to defend us against these kind of tyrants? Now, Kim Jong-un, he's a psychopath. He is dangerous precisely because he is unpredictable. When you are negotiating nation to nation, when you are trying to position yourself in defending your nation against war, you have to rely on the assumption that the other party is rational. If you are negotiating, both parties have to be rational. If one party is highly irrational, which is Kim Jong-un, or I don't know how you, maybe Kim Jong-un probably is the best way to say it. He's actually sort of fulfilling some of the UN's desires to get things stirred up. But if he's not rational, you can't negotiate with him. And he might do something crazy that is even against his own interests. You see, this is a key psychological element that you got to understand. We rely on national leaders to do things that are in their own interests. If they abandon that line of thinking, then they are unpredictable and they are dangerous. And that's where we are with Kim Jong-un. Now, you have that piece, Alex?
Yeah, I sure do. We're going to post it up at Infowars.com. Here's the headline: anti-government parents allegedly kidnap their own children.
How do you kidnap your own children?
And this is Fox 13. It says that they went to an anti-government rally, and so their children were taken, because, you know, all the dramas and sitcoms show that as terrorists.
Right.
It's like the veterans are being grabbed in mass and having their guns taken with no criminal record, no mental record. This is the purge. The Nazis and the Soviets, and we can actually put this on screen. They were actually...
Yeah, and by anti-government rally, is it just like a... does that mean like a pro-constitution rally?
They just say they went to an anti-government rally, and when the police learned that they'd gone to an anti-government rally, when they got back to Florida, they took their children, says it right here in the article, and they're announcing it like they have terrorists. And so the parents got their children back and then disappeared with them. And, I mean, how dare them? It's like the Soviet Union. You know, some people in the Soviet Union ran to the woods.
Right.
And they were terrorists. They were terrorists as well. And then throughout the newscast, they just show that they had Infowars.com bumper sticker that looks like it's spray painted. That's a bumper sticker we've put out. And they just show the insane criminal evil that is Infowars.com.
So they're basically trying to blame Infowars for parents abducting their own children.
But I mean, it's like this. It's like this all the time.
It's insane.
But again, coming up the next hour, you have the special piece we're going to premiere here on the radio,
right,
where there is no New World Order and there are no bullets, and Glenn Beck agrees.
And there's no armored assault vehicles. The DHS doesn't exist. Hey, have you started selling imaginary bullets yet out of your store? Remember? That's the way to raise some revenue right there. The government's buying imaginary bullets in huge quantities.
Meanwhile, our government allowed, and the UN allowed, ABB, the Swiss company, with Rumsfeld as its head, to actually transfer the reactors in the mid-90s to...
There it is, the mailbox with Infowars.com.
To North Korea, so that they would have this. And now North Korea, quote, approves a nuclear strike on the United States. That is French news agency AFP. Reuters also has the similar headline. And that was yesterday. Now they're moving all sorts of... U.S. military equipment into the area. They're openly talking about all sorts of war. I mean, it is just getting crazier and crazier and crazier.
I got something for you, Alex. What about this? Colorado Democrat Representative Diana DeGette. She doesn't realize, she's a gun control person, she doesn't realize that magazines can be reloaded. She says that if you have a 30-round mag, which I have here in the studio, that once you use them, the bullets will have been shot, and then there won't be any more magazines available. There's actually a video.
Well, see, you've got the globalists that are all buying billions of bullets, armored vehicles. They know about weapons and how to use them.
Yeah.
Feinstein's a big gun aficionado, owns a bunch, has bodyguards. But they count on the general public who think that if they fire a .22, it's going to explode. They're going to fly back like Police Academy.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, there's a magazine.
So yes. the sheeple feel safe when they see someone in a black uniform with police dogs barking at them like Nazi Germany, but they don't feel safe if they drive by farmers all over the country, even in rural areas that have shotguns in their cab. Police are called. Anywhere in Texas now, if you fire guns even on 10,000-acre ranches, helicopters, police, you name it, come. No, and then they come because you're not allowed to shoot guns in America. There's no law. Veterans are being grabbed by the thousands a week that we know of, drug off, forced drugged, made to sign papers are mentally ill. Their guns are taken, and then their kids. And God forbid a veteran run with his son or daughter because now you're a terrorist. And they have Amber Alerts. Oh, my gosh. It actually says in the news article, this is from Fox 13, I'm reading, that the children were taken after they went to the anti-government extremist rally, and then when police questioned them about it at the anti-gun at the anti-government rally, that they were arrested because he was talking crazy. And again, it's crazy to say there's a takeover.
But he probably
hey, cops, New World Order. DHS is arming. New World Order, foreign banks are imploding us. They're arresting veterans. It's totally hellish. You know, the Obama shipping guns to Mexico, shutting down our power plants. This boy's nuts. And I've got video of state police in Virginia at checkpoints who find a pocket constitution, and they start hyperventilating and arrest the woman.
Right here, like one of these?
No, just, it was the type we sold. She got it from us. And it was like the Bill of Rights, Constitution, Declaration of Independence, Founding Father quotes with George Washington on the back.
But see, this is how the mental health initiatives are going to work. If you have actual knowledge of reality, Alex, they're going to say you're insane. Because you know DHS has 2 billion rounds of ammo they're arming up for use on the streets of America. You know that there are GMOs in the food. You know all these things, so you must be insane, so they're going to take your kids and charge you with kidnapping your own kids.
Oh, now the media, notice the media won't talk about them taking bank account money in Cyprus.
No.
They're taking all of it now because they, in some cases, and the media just says, Cyprus is lucky they got a bailout.
Aren't we so fortunate? Welcome back. This is the Alex Jones Show, and we have a very interesting show. A lot of craziness happening in the world today. As you know, if you've been listening, Alex is here in studio with me. Mike Adams filling in today, guest hosting, but it's actually turned into a co-hosting situation, Alex, which is really even more fun.
Oh, yeah. I was going to take my son fishing this morning, and then I was going to come in the afternoon as he begs to go bass fishing, and I was going to come in and do administrative stuff and work on things till about 8 or 9 tonight, and then go out for a little company dinner, and I had to just come in because of all this happening. But listen,
it just happens.
Then Adon Salazar calls me back in there at the start of the last hour and goes, look at this local newscast off of Fox in Florida, in Tampa. And it's like, their headline is, children kidnapped, Amber Alert. There it is, Orlando Sentinel. Amber Alert, search continues for 2 boys abducted from grandmother's home by anti-government parents. Now, again, the father had been arrested. CPS had given her the grandmother. It turns out we looked this guy up. He's bought stuff from us before. They found a bumper sticker, and it says at the anti-government rally that Joshua Hacken, an engineer from Tampa, was arrested at the rally. Okay, so
I'm suspicious about this rally being called anti-government.
Well, but what the point is, our government's been seized by the globalists. It's an occupied government. But listen, here's the issue. What was my whole show yesterday, hyperventilating? Every veteran I know is getting a letter, or they're just getting a letter saying you can't own guns anymore, and they've never even, and if you go in for marriage counseling, your guns are gone now. Okay, so, I mean, doctors are spying on you. With people with no mental problems are having their guns taken. This is the purge, and now they have all these sitcoms, dramas, and movies where anybody that criticizes the government's a terrorist and has to be arrested, and so now parents are fleeing with their children, and there's Amber Alerts hunting the patriots. This is how they're going to start the Civil War, is coming after people's kids. They're going to start it. They're losing the info war. No one watches CNN, MSNBC. Everybody knows they're terrorists that staged 9/11, staged Oklahoma City. Everybody knows it's a foreign banking cartel that runs Al-Qaeda. Everybody knows now. And so they're going to call us terrorists and try to start a civil war, hoping the smoke screen distracts everybody. Mike, we were talking during the break. I mean, you see me running around like a chicken with my head cut off. Because let me tell you, this is real.
I know. They're going to pull out all the stops. But you're right. The point is they are trying to provide provoke this because they want somebody to fight back so that they have an excuse to lay down something like martial law. And if they don't get it through these provocations, they're probably going to get an excuse with North Korea, as we've been talking about.
But it's going to be just like Mexico. You have a couple cops, a couple prosecutors getting killed in Colorado and in Texas,
yeah.
And they're basically on lockdown with details scared to death. Okay, I don't want a war with the police and military.
No,
it's wrong to be arresting without charges and taking guns of veterans with no criminal record, no psychiatric background. It's illegal. Okay, it's illegal to be taking people's kids that haven't taken shots when there's no law. It's all illegal. Okay, and so here's the deal. You're pushing us, okay? You're pushing it, and the globalists are going to sit offshore while this country goes up in flame, okay? So police and military better have a conversation right now, because we tell you, when you're out of the military, they're going to take your guns too.
You know, and historically, by the way, I just got to say this, liberty has never been achieved passively by sitting back and doing nothing. Even Gandhi, he had a bunch of rebels in the country that were fighting against the occupation there. Liberty has not been achieved passively, Alex. That's something, I'm not calling for violence in any way whatsoever, but you can't sit back and find freedom. It's just, it's a rule of the universe.
Well, you know, Glenn Beck calls me a fascist and calls me spooky because he's a gatekeeper, and I wish he'd come in on the team, but everybody's having pressure put on him. They've tried to buy you out recently. Globalists have tried to offer me all sorts of deals.
Yeah.
You know, this is the issue here is that they're taking over, and everybody's scared, and everybody's going to go along with this. I'm not the one that's spooky. The New World Order, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I'm reading where they're now going to start taking money out of bank accounts in other European countries. First it was 10, then 20, then 40, then 50, then 60, then 80.
Yep.
Now they're going to take everything, and they're going to do that here. I found where Geithner's saying they're going to take private pension funds. And you know what? When you get angry about it, the cops aren't going to shoot rubber bullets at you, folks. They're going to mow you down. They're going to have cops mowing people down when the cops have had their pensions taken. Look at Spain, where they've been killing people over their pensions being stolen. Well, and the cops have had theirs taken too, you idiots.
They're defending the very system that's going to betray them. That's what they don't realize yet. The pensions are going to be targeted, no question about it.
Well, listen, this family, we need to put out a hotline for the family to call us here.
Absolutely, yeah. Hacken, is that the
absolutely. We went and looked. He's bought stuff from us. It's a listener, an engineer.
We need to come to his defense.
And imagine he goes to a anti-government Tea Party rally.
Yeah, Tea Party rally.
And then they say you shouldn't have kids at an extremist rally. And then they search his car and claim they found a marijuana paraphernalia.
Which could be anything.
Oh, well, they can plant it on you.
A pipe.
Yeah. I mean, I probably smoke marijuana every 3 years. They're going to plant it on me and take my kids?
Well, they are saying that these parents abducted their own kids.
By the way, the new thing is they're taking, after the veterans have the guns taken, there's no judge, no jury. They just say you're mentally ill. Your kids are next. And I know.
Yeah.
You're going to be hunted down, too. They're going to come after all of us. This is the re-education camp takeover. Mike Adams, you'll be right back.
All right, welcome back. This is the Alex Jones Show. Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, guest hosting today. It's been an interesting show already, and I think Alex, I mean, he could jump in at any time depending on what's happening, by the way. In the third hour, we're going to take some phone calls. We're going to ask for calls in the third hour from people in Korea, Japan, or Taiwan who are listening to the show and might have information about what's happening in Korea, but especially Korea. But please, we need you to call in English. That goes without saying because our audience is English. So if you can do that, then please plan to call us in the third hour. Now, we're going to shift gears here from the North Korea situation for a while, and we're going to go back into food self-reliance because this is a key technology. Now, I believe there are 5 key technologies for liberty that are all decentralized, non-controlled technologies that actually, they help you be healthier, they help you be more free and more self-reliant. And one of those technologies, and probably the key, is aquaponics. And I've become a huge fan of aquaponics. I'm building my own system, but where I've learned much of that is from this man who's in the studio with us right now. His name is Rob Nash. He is the founder of AustinAquaponics.com. He's also a representative for the American, is it the American Aquaponics?
The National.
The National Association. So welcome to the show, Rob.
Excellent. Thanks for having us.
It's great to have you here. And by the way, you're a really awesome teacher.
Well, thanks.
Your course, I took your Saturday course.
Yep.
I learned a lot.
Awesome. Glad to have you.
You're very good at it. So tell us tell the audience what you do, because you're a hands-on guy who's having a lot of commercial success with growing food.
Yeah, well, you know, about 7 years ago, we decided I'm going to give this farming thing a try. And in researching the best sustainable methods out there, we discovered aquaponics, which seemed to be a perfect fit for us. I had already been keeping koi pond in the backyard, and had experimented with hydroponics, and so they were a natural combination. And so we've been at it commercially for about 5 years now. And just through demand and multiple requests, we started doing the backyard trainings. So many people had found a new interest in it.
Yeah.
And it's just blossomed from there. I can't keep up with the phone calls.
Now, you have huge hoop houses. I was there. You have a raft system. You've got grow beds. You've got wicking beds. You're growing the most beautiful lettuce I've ever seen. And you're actually selling this in grocers all over town, right?
Right now, we're really limited to our one farmer's market there in the Bee Cave area, the Lone Star Farmers Market.
Because everybody's buying it up right there, huh?
Correct. And the greens, as you saw that day, everybody's in this greens movement right now. It's all about kale and chard. And, of course, the lettuces always do really well, too.
Yeah.
But we're in a few, two, to be exact, local restaurants, Italian restaurants, that just can't get enough of our basil. And so that's our biggest commercial market.
So are you now seeing, I mean, you've been doing this for many years, but are you seeing a surge in interest from people in this food technology?
Absolutely. You know, aquaponics has officially been on the map for, I'd say, 6 or 7 years in terms of small scale or backyard personal food production. But in the last 12, 16 months, it has just exploded in terms of backyard hobby gardeners wanting to adopt this as a means to grow food.
Why do you think that is? What are you hearing?
I would say mostly because of in Texas, it's mostly because of the climate. You know, you hear all the time, if gardening were any more difficult, it would be impossible. And so aquaponics has proven to overcome some of the summer challenges as well as in the wintertime. But I would think that with the food safety and security issues that we have and, you know, the quote-unquote broken food system that we're having to deal with, I would think more and more people are looking towards food production really to save on their food bill.
Yeah.
But more or less to salvage their gardening hobby, which, again, has become frustrating to many people in Central Texas.
But I also noticed that aquaponics really seems to appeal to men a lot, where like soil gardening seems to be women do more of that for whatever reason. But I think aquaponics, there's more gadgetry involved, and it's kind of cool to build it, you know, guys like that.
I think you're right on the money there. I think aquaponics really gets most men's tinkering bone, if you will.
Yeah, right.
And then, of course, the wife is always supportive because, hey, it gives him something to do, keeps him in the house or in the backyard.
Yeah, it keeps him out of trouble, is what you're saying.
And it really, once you've overcome the initial cost, it's really a low-cost hobby, if you will. So what a better way for a family to spend some time than for the man to be able to build something and watch it go, and then the ladies to be able to bring something to the food table.
Yeah, and it's incredible because you don't even have to really bend over that much. You know, a lot of people don't like just the physical bending of gardening. These grow beds in aquaponics are at waist height. You can set them almost at any height you want.
Correct.
I've even heard of people in wheelchairs running aquaponic systems because they can do it. They can physically do it.
That is correct. Yeah, you get a lot of elderly folks or in one way or another disabled, and they really do enjoy the raised beds. And in a wheelchair access scenario, usually there's room underneath the beds that you could wheel up to. So it really is more like a tabletop garden, if you will.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It does take out a lot of the bending over and the backaches. There's no weeding.
No weeding at all, yeah. I remember you showed me weeding. It was like 1 second.
I think you may have saw
there's an actual one weed, yes.
Right, so, you know, it's not zero weeding, but one weed versus 1 day of weeding, it's pretty cool.
Now, the other thing that I really appreciate about you in particular, but also Troy, who we had as a guest earlier, but the entire aquaponic community, is it feels very open source to me. I don't find a lot of people saying, oh, I'm not going to share my secrets with you. You have to pay me $20,000 to have my secret patented system X, you know. No, aquaponics is like, we want to share the information and empower you with the knowledge that you need to grow your own food, and we hope you can empower others.
Yeah, you do see a lot of that. I believe that aquaponics was really born during this information age, if you will. And so it's probably one of the first new substantial things that come along that, again, that was in this information age where everything that comes along is put out on the internet. So we're all learning collectively as this methodology emerges.
Yeah, I read that at some point somebody decided, well, we should throw worms into the grow beds, you know, red wigglers. And then suddenly the fish poo problem, the buildup problem, was solved.
Correct.
Like, who came up with that?
Well, really, I can't tell you exactly which one person, but collectively there was some back and forth on the subject. And, you know, the idea was a great idea, but the organic movement, and I'm sure you probably keep up with this.
Yes.
There's so many regulations about raw manures and whatnot. We were really unsure what they were going to allow us to do in organic food production.
Yeah.
So worms had really remained kind of a novel idea. And then once the industry as a whole just said, look, we're going to call this all natural, and we're going to skip this OCERT, if you will,
yeah, right.
and forget about sharing our profits with the government or the USDA. And so they just went ahead and started throwing the worms in. And then almost immediately we got reports of such good results. And then, like you said, we wind up not even having to clean the gravel anymore.
That's what's amazing to me about this system. And for those of you listening, this is the Alex Jones Show. This is Mike Adams filling in for Alex today. And yes, we're going to continue to cover North Korea and other things in the next hour. But right now, we've got Rob Nash here from AustinAquaponics.com, who is an expert, a hands-on expert on aquaponic systems. And I believe this technology is absolutely crucial for liberty, for health. With Troy, we talked about the importance how you can put minerals into the system that are actually taken up by the plants instead of being flushed downstream and wasted.
Yeah.
That's another huge advantage, isn't it?
It's incredible. You know, you can use pretty much all of your organic supplements that you may have become accustomed to in organic gardening. And it really, like you said, stays in the system and is pretty much 100% absorbed by the plants. There's really nowhere for it to go. You know, we do have a closed loop system. The only water we add is due to evaporation or plant uptake. And so you're pretty much assured that everything you put in there is going to stay with your plants.
Yeah, I've heard that estimates are it uses anywhere from 1/10 to maybe sometimes 1/20 of conventional agriculture water.
Correct. Yeah, you hear anywhere, the figures from anywhere to 2% to 10%. And I'm going to say that that depends on what traditional agriculture you're comparing it to, whether it's a rice field or old school drip irrigation in a raised beds.
That makes a lot of sense. And I also think in terms of the cost issues, there's some upfront cost to it, but when you go to the grocery store now, folks, you are paying $4 for an organic red pepper, sometimes $5 for one red pepper. You can grow $1,000 worth of red peppers for almost nothing once you get the system set up. I mean, you can grow back huge dollars.
Literally. You should be able to see a return on your investment, regardless of what system you went for, whether you bought a turnkey system online or built one yourself. You should see a return on that investment within the first year. Like you say, with prices going up, I've seen bell peppers as high as $7 a piece.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But also there's another element here. I don't know if you've talked about this with your students, but there is the living energy of foods, the bioenergy of foods. And when something is dead, you know, it's been pulled from the ground and it's been shipped and it's been put in the grocery store and it looks dead, looks like it got run over by a parade or something. That does not have the same life energy as fresh, living food that you pull right out, you know, piece of lettuce, make a salad of living lettuce.
Yeah, well, you know the old saying, fresh is best. But there's really nothing better than going out and picking food from your garden and taking it straight to the kitchen and having it that evening.
And even fish. That you can harvest fish and have a fish that evening.
That's correct. Suffice it to say, anytime that the wife says, well, it's your night to cook, what are you going to have? I come back with a couple of fish and some fresh greens, and that's for sure what we're having that evening.
Yeah, good idea. So you are also, I understand that you sell pre-made systems to people who kind of want to take the shortcut, but I get the feeling that you would prefer people build their own. You
know, I say the same thing with growing food. I've always said I get a lot more satisfaction out of showing someone how to grow their own super nutritious food than to sell them these, you know, $3 heads of lettuce each week. Right. It's a great way to pay the bills for me, but I think most people would get that same satisfaction out of growing their own. So yes, we do offer turnkey systems, but I really encourage people to learn how to do this for themselves. That way they're not limited to whatever one size system they bought. They would have an understanding of what it takes to put one of these things together, and then the sky's the limit. You know, they can take it all the way up to a commercial scale if they wanted to.
'Cause that's what I hear from everybody who starts this. They get the bug, and they want more grow beds, more and more and more, because it's so fascinating, so rewarding. And, you know, you're going to save really a small fortune, because one of the news items that we've covered here on InfoWars in the past is the droughts, the weather radicalization that's happened across the planet. You know, the Midwest droughts of last year have almost collapsed some of the grain supply in the Midwest, which is going to cause food prices to spike and skyrocket. Actually, starting right now, you're already seeing it in the stores. So food is not going to get cheaper, but aquaponics, in contrast to grocery foods, always gets cheaper in comparison.
I would have to agree, sure.
The economics just make sense.
Right. Yeah. Again, don't let the sticker price of a new system shock you. Although I must say there are some out there that are a little overpriced, in my opinion. But I'm going to assume that that's production cost, shipping, and materials that they used. And the systems that we like to advise people to build really are do-it-yourself or bought from local hydroponic shops such as Troy Shop. And with this new aquaponic movement, a lot of the hydroponic shops have embraced aquaponics, and so it's a great place to start if you don't know where to start.
Yeah. Let's talk about food freedom a little bit, because another story that we've covered here is in places like Michigan, a woman named Julie Bass was threatened with 90 days of jail time for having a garden in her own front yard.
Wow.
And because of the activism of InfoWars and my website, Natural News, and others, we were able to get the city of, I think, Oak Park, Michigan, to back off of that. Was it a year ago, or roughly a year ago? But there are other cases where home gardeners are being oppressed and threatened for growing food in their front yard because the neighbors want this sterilized, weed-free, artificial turf look. They don't know that they need to be growing food.
Yeah.
They don't realize that yet. What are your thoughts on food freedom?
Well, I think everybody should grow as much food as they can squeeze in their yard, front or back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm assuming that had something to do with HOA rules and...
It was a city rule.
Aesthetics.
It wasn't even an HOA. It was a city ordinance.
And I'm guessing this had nothing to do with aquaponics.
No, that was just growing cucumbers in soil.
Well...
And she was teaching her son to garden, How dare you teach your children?
Well, if I were on any other show, I'd say, well, don't get me started about politics and city regulations and whatnot. But I think you know where I'm going with that. Unfortunately, there is a lot of that. And I think that's why more and more people don't grow their own food, is because there are challenges. It's either aesthetics or it's, water use issues. Or the rest of us that are chasing our tail trying to make a living just don't have the time to devote to a garden to keep it going.
Yeah, that's commonly the case. But when I drive down a neighborhood, let's say in Austin, I'm looking at a neighborhood like the one right next to your place. I go from your place, which is growing food, it's very organic, it's health and nourishment, and then right across the street there is this artificial neighborhood with an HOA, all these clean lawns, everybody there dying from cancer and heart disease and diabetes and spending millions of dollars on pharmaceuticals and mammograms, and what they need to do is cross the freaking street and go to you and eat their way to health, and they don't even realize it.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, you're correct, and I do agree. In fact, I have a gentleman from that very neighborhood who, because of his HOA, is actually willing to share my property, be it investment or not, to keep that opportunity. But just because he's so limited in what he can do, he's going to come over to my place and share on my property to continue his gardening.
Oh, good. And so you're helping your neighbors there. Yeah. Rob Nash here from Austin Aquaponics, folks. Now, the InfoWars audience did crash Troy's website in the last segment. They may crash yours, too. Just warning you in advance.
Incredible.
AustinAquaponics.com. And there's a lot of great information there. Another website that I like is the Aquaponics Source. That's Sylvia's website, right?
Right. Well, and I prefer to direct people to the Aquaponic Community Garden or gardeningcommunity.com.
Okay, go ahead and give that website out.
Which is the forum. And again, it is Sylvia Bernstein's website, but it is called the Aquaponic Gardening Community.com. And you'll find that as a forum. And I think as of right now, there's just over 9,000 members on there. And majority of them are backyarders or beginners. But I will say that it's probably the biggest collection of aquaponic experts that you'll find directly communicating with beginners. And so there's a ton of good information on there.
That's great. And I think also the key concept to get across to people is you're not using chemicals to grow plants. You are growing an ecosystem. There are more bacteria in there than anything. You've got bacteria, worms, fish, and plants all together in basically a closed-loop system. You got fish food, of course, but basically a closed-loop system that is self-sustaining, self-cleaning, self-supporting. That's That's a breakthrough.
It's pretty incredible, you know, and it's funny because really all we're doing is nurturing nature's biological processes.
Right.
We haven't really created anything new.
The earth does this every day.
We've just created a man-made way of harboring all of those benefits. And I think the more we understand about the biology of soil and the importance of funguses and bacteria, the more we're able to utilize them to our benefit.
But it also shows you the contrast to conventional farming, which is really artificial food. If you take conventional farming, they're throwing these seeds in the soil, and then they're only putting 3 nutrients on it, NPK, and that's it. And it's artificial food without the minerals that are supposed to be present, and without the probiotics, without the healthy soils, everything.
Yeah, and as we, you know, in organic farming, the current saying is you're feeding the soil, not the plant. And what they're talking about is the biological activity that's going on in there. And without all of those funguses, bacterias, and the sugars and whatnot to keep them thriving, really the plant's never going to do anything. Like you say, you can force feed it the NPs and Ks.
We got to go to a break here, Rob. But we'll be right back. This is the Alex Jones Show. We're talking to Rob Nash here at Austin Aquaponics. This is Mike Adams. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more information. All right, we're back. This is the Alex Jones Show. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you're enjoying all of the information. Our job is to inform you, to do a little bit of entertainment, but mostly inform you of the things that matter, that really matter in your life. And feeding yourself is key, because if you don't have food freedom, you are essentially a slave. And a lot of people come into aquaponics, which is the subject of our continuing interview here with Rob Nash of AustinAquaponics.com. A lot of people come to it from a point of view of freedom. Others come to it from a point of view of health. Others just want to save money on their groceries. Some just want to tinker with food and grow their own medicine and not have, you know, the government tell them what they can or can't buy in terms of medicine. So there are lots of reasons to get into it. But when I was there at your class there, Rob, because I took your training course, and I'd like to train with you more, by the way.
Sure.
I saw a really nice mix of people. Some people, everybody had already been into some kind of food, but there was one couple there that was part of an e-commerce company. They're like high-tech people who were getting into self-reliant food. Are you seeing like a big diverse cross of, you know, all kinds of people who are interested in it?
Absolutely. I would say primarily a few years ago, really it was kind of the college student crowd, the ones that were heavy into research, obviously into healthy eating, and the local vor movement. But now it's really spread, like you said, a wide, diverse crowd. I'd say the baby boomers are probably outdoing the college crowd at this point, because you know how they are. They get locked in on any subject, and all of a sudden, you know, that's their new focus. But you do see a lot of diversity.
That's interesting, because I think also aquaponics is less physically demanding than soil gardening by far.
Yeah.
And one of the concerns I've had about a lot of people who are, we call preppers or survivalists, that they're buying seeds, which is very important. It's very, you know, it's a great strategy. But if you've never really gone out there and sowed those seeds and grown food and pulled the weeds, you're not going to be able to just jump into it and do it overnight. It's hard work.
Sure.
So aquaponics is sort of, it's an easier thing you can ease into now, and you can do it even when you're, you know, an elderly person. You can handle it, no problem.
Yeah, literally. There's really no heavy lifting involved. Once you've got your media in your beds, you know, the biggest thing you're going to lift would be, say, a 20-pound tomato plant if you, if you let it go that far.
Yeah, I saw you had a tomato plant that was like 20 feet tall that you had strung almost like a vine.
Yeah, and I think you were there 3 weeks ago, so we're at about 26 or 8 feet at this point.
That's insane.
Yeah, they get incredible growth.
A lot of people don't realize that in this system, because the nutrient density is so high, the plant density can also be much, much higher. So in the same square footage, you can grow like 300% more food.
Well, they say you can safely plant your plants at least twice as close as what is recommended. So if it says 1 foot, you can do them every 6 inches. Literally, the plants just aren't fighting for nutrients, like you said. So the root base doesn't have to reach as far, and there's really no issue with that. Really what becomes is just that there's plenty of room for the plant to grow, that it actually has access to the sunlight, and there's room for fruit to, you know, to be harvested. So
got to have the light, of course. But this also works in almost any climate, because, you know, here in Texas, we all are trying to get rid of heat.
Right.
You can do that with the right shade cloths and systems like that. But in northern climates, all you need is a covering. You can grow food year-round in aquaponics.
That's correct. By heating the water a bit, you can keep the plant roots happy, and that'll, you know, basically trick the plant into believing it's not as cold as it is outside.
Good point. It's not the leaf temperature, it's not the ambient air temperature that really affects the production of the plant. It's the root temperature.
Correct. Yeah, they say the root zone is the brains of the plant, if you will. And so, again, by keeping it warm, the rest of the plant just keeps on metabolizing its sugars and whatnot, and so you get this vibrant growth.
Now, a lot of people listening, I know they've got a lot of questions, but, and we got to go to break here in a second, but you can even grow sweet potatoes in these systems, right?
Yes, correct. Almost anything but white potatoes and or carrots. You know,
the carrots don't physically
They don't really like to push their way around in the heavy medias.
Okay, well, we'll be back with one more segment with Rob Nash here. This is the Alex Jones Show, and we've got a special report coming up in the next hour by Alex Jones. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this break with much more. All right, we're back, folks. This is the third hour. This is the Alex Jones Show. Mike Adams, the health ranger, filling in for Alex, guest hosting with Alex today. He was in here in the first couple of hours, and man, yeah, he's rightly animated about what's going on today. A lot of craziness in the world, but here to bring some sanity to all of our minds is Rob Nash from AustinAquaponics.com, who's continuing to teach us about aquaponics, a technology, a decentralized, self-replicating, peer-to-peer food technology system that I'm really excited about. And along those lines, when I say peer-to-peer, what I'm referring to is your suggestion that we should share worms and share the bacteria in the soil and help our neighbors get going with their systems.
Sure. Well, and on that note, you know, these systems do take a while to mature. Like you said, there is three things we're growing: fish, plants, and bacteria. Bacteria are present in nature, and they'll show up just out of the blue. But if it's like a friendship bread. If you were to introduce just a small piece of the gravel or the worms for an inoculant, their system will be ready for this vigor faster.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the interesting part about this is your system won't really function correctly until the bacteria have multiplied to the point where they can convert ammonia to nitrite and then to nitrate.
You really have been doing your homework, yes.
I took your class. I'm telling you, you got it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, and there's two different basic strains of bacteria. One converts ammonia to nitrate, and the other converts nitrate to nitrite. So you got to allow that to happen, and then it's ready.
That's correct. Yeah, you don't really just start by throwing some fish in a bucket and then feeding that water to plants. Like you stated, the fish waste is basically almost pure ammonia, which is not beneficial to a plant. In fact, it's probably harmful. Yeah. But once you have the established bacteria to convert that to a nitrite and then a nitrate, then you actually have an ammonium nitrate or straight fertilizer. And as well...
Don't let the government hear you say ammonium nitrate.
Well, honestly, I'm using that a little loose. Ammonium nitrate would be a bad byproduct of having too low of a pH. So you're right. Let's not call that the end result that we're shooting for.
They will call aquaponics terrorism very soon. Right. Right. How dare you? You're producing explosives.
Well, you'll have an explosive garden, I can say that. And I tell you, if they were to go to our About Us page and look at the pictures of the giant kale, that's one of the photos we get the most comments of. And you want to talk about some explosive growth.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, if you scroll down just a little bit down there, there's it is probably the picture that is my...
Keep going, guys. Oh, there it is. Dinosaur kale. Look, it's like taller than you.
My wife's caption to that picture is, "Honey, I shrunk you," amongst the kale plants.
That's crazy.
And a lot of people would assume that those plants probably were very tough or bitter. Honestly, those are some of the nicest and most tender kale leaves I've ever produced.
And they're loaded with nutrition and anti-cancer nutrients, all kinds of things.
Yeah, kale is one of the latest to be deemed a superfood.
Yes.
And we just can't grow enough of it. The demand out there is incredible.
Oh, I agree. And so you are essentially, in that picture, for those of you on the radio, you can see this on prisonplanet.tv if you remember, that picture, it's like you're actually growing money and medicine on trees. I mean,
true.
It's like growing revenue and health.
I would say that kale has been one of the best products in our entire efforts.
Nice.
Each of those plants there was probably worth, anywhere from $12 to $35 just if I were to harvest just that one plant.
And they keep growing
and
back.
And you come back and harvest again next week. Now, those right there were probably 2 months overdue to be harvested. Yeah. That was back in the days when I had more kale than I did market, which is absolutely not the case today.
So you could grow like unlimited quantities of kale probably and find buyers right now.
Absolutely. And with this local movement that really is in effect, people have been talking about this locavore movement for years now, almost 6 or so that I know of. But I would say right now there's more restaurants and local distributors clamoring for local produce.
Oh, they should be, because this is what makes their food taste good, look good, nice texture, better nutrition, you name it. Rob, Nash, we are out of time. But AustinAquaponics.com has now been officially crashed. Your website is down because of the audience. Yes, I'm sorry to say that, my friend. But thanks for joining us today. Great to have you on. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, and the world is getting more insane by the day. A recent public policy poll revealed that as many as 37% of those polled believe global warming to be a hoax. 1 in 4 Americans thinks Obama may be the Antichrist. So actually this information is getting out there, and a significant percentage, I think roughly up to 50%, could entertain the idea that there is a new world order that is attempting to run the globe and the finances and the countries and everything. But, of course, the mainstream media denies that. No, there are no conspiracies. No, people never get together in secret rooms and plan to carry things out. No such thing as a conspiracy. There are no bullets. DHS isn't purchasing bullets. None of that. So here to answer that is a special report by Alex Jones. It's called Proof the New World Order Exists. This is a special report. We're going to go to it right now. So enjoy this report. Roll it, guys.
Public policy polling has conducted an extensive poll investigating Republicans and Democrats' belief in the conspiracy theories. Now, the term conspiracy theory is used to simply demonize people who do not trust known liars. How many times have big corporations and governments been caught lying? Secret medical experiments, lies about WMDs, the list goes on and on. And the corporate collaborator media that works with the government continually demonizes anyone that says that they're a corrupt special interest trying to use government to oppress and rob the population. But $85 billion a month for years is given to foreign offshore banks of U.S. taxpayer money. I mean, that's in the news. There are clips on CNBC where they admit that we're now under the control of global government run by private central banks.
Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge? Jim Iorio, you say we've got some downside here, a correction in the markets. Fine. But aren't we all just living and dying for what the central banks do? Aren't we all just counting on the fact that there's a Bernanke put and that we won't go any lower than, say, 5% down from here?
Of course we are. To answer your question, we are absolutely slaves to central banks.
Mr. LeCamp, do we work for the central bankers?
We know that.
Mr. LeCamp,
we do. This is free. We do.
That's how the ultra-rich actually get most of their money, is using government to consolidate the general population's money and give it to themselves in corporate welfare and bailouts. So, of course, their paid-for media that they own is going to sit there and lie to the viewers. You have to understand something. The public policy polling group comes out and says, do you believe in the conspiracy theory of world government and a corrupt cabal that wants to take over? The very way they phrase that, do you believe the conspiracy theory? Just like they ask, do you believe in the conspiracy theory that billions of bullets have been bought? Do you believe in the conspiracy theory that there are Homeland Security drones? I don't know, it was in Associated Press and Wired magazine that 3 years ago they're arresting, quote, poachers and cattle rustlers with them. It's like saying, do you believe in the conspiracy theory that the sun came out? What they're really doing is saying, hey, culturally, you're not allowed to believe there's corruption, and we're going to ridicule you and put a label on you if you say we're liars. Think of the hoax of coming out and saying, close to a third of Americans, sadly, believe there's a move to establish global government, when the Vatican's calling for it, when British prime ministers and Al Gore and the head of the European Union, Herman Van Rompuy, and just hundreds of others have called for a new world order. And then they define it as a global corporate government run by private banks that you pay carbon taxes to.
But it is the awareness itself that will drive the change. And one of the ways it will drive the change is through global governance and global agreements. But the many business leaders who have been present here are among those taking leadership in other ways.
Yet these problems can be overcome by a joint effort in and between our countries. 2009 is also the first year of global governance, with the establishment of the G20 in the middle of the financial crisis. The climate conference in Copenhagen is another step towards the global management of our planet.
This is collective action, people working together at their best. I think a new world order is emerging, and with it the foundations of a new and progressive era of international cooperation.
That's their definition in the Financial Times of London, and now for World Government headline, written by their foreign desk editor. That's the definition in Time magazine, a bank of the world. So I'm reporting on real things, and they're saying, oh no, he's a dangerous conspiracy theorist. Remember Robert Gibbs, the former White House press secretary, saying he would be ordered to lie about drone programs that are on record to exist.
When I went through the process of becoming press secretary, one of the first things they told me was, you're not even to acknowledge the drone program. You're not even to discuss that it exists. Wow. And so I would get a question like that, and literally I couldn't tell you what Major asked, because once I figured out it was about the drone program, I realized I'm not supposed to talk about it. But here's what's inherently crazy about that proposition. You're being asked a question based on reporting of a program that exists. Right. So you're the official government spokesperson acting as if the entire program, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Right. What's happening there? They're counting on the public not going and looking at the documents, or not going and finding out there really are 2 billion bullets, or 30,000 drones funded in the new FAA funding last year, and that they're launching now. And it's not just people like Robert Gibbs on the so-called left. It's gatekeepers like Glenn Beck, who says there are no FEMA camps, even though there are official Army documents talking about their establishment, where it talks about re-education and taking your Social Security numbers, and the Army confiscating your guns, and the Civilian Inmate Labor Camp Program, and the Emergency Centers Establishment Act. But Glenn Beck can just say, none of that's true. Alex Jones is a fascist. He's not a conservative. He's a liar. And by the way, they haven't gotten millions of bullets. Don't believe him.
It's amazing because he runs InfoWars, and really smart people have come up to me and said, you know, I just saw this on something from InfoWars. Do you know anything about it? And I'm like,
yes,
yeah, stay away from it.
Immediately discounted.
Somebody came up to me just 2 days ago and said, we just bought like 1.5 billion rounds of Homeland Security. And I said, I don't know, might be. Well, I got it from InfoWars. And I'm like, okay, well, no. Then I can tell you right now, it's most likely not true.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we can have a debate about the world government being established that's totally authoritarian, if we can have a debate about the government arming to the teeth while trying to disarm us, if we can have a debate about the things that are happening in this culture, then we can change things, because we have right on our side and the facts. But we can never get to that debate because they just say, no, it isn't true. And you're like, well, yeah, it is. And the debate becomes, is it real or not? What will shatter that is if you will go search yourself for the Civilian Inmate Labor Camp Program at Army.mil. If you will go, and if you will research the different data sheets that Paul Watson and others have put together, like Bankers Declare U.S. and Europe Conquered, that is full of dozens of video clips and links to establishment publications announcing world government as a good thing. You see, if you promote a corporate fascist world government as a good thing while you get invited to the Council on Foreign Relations and on CNN, but if you say, hey, I don't want an unelected group of bankers looting me and taking my liberties and robbing my pension fund, well then, what are you talking about, crazy man? That doesn't exist. They're playing mind games with you. So as Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. Go out and check my claims. Find out they're true, and then ask yourself, why are they lying to you? The answer is getting in their face and saying no. Because if you're watching this transmission, you are the resistance. There's not some secret cabal of good guys that are going to save you. It's me. It's you. It's us that are going to turn the tide. It's always been that way throughout history. So don't just let the globalists dictate reality and tell you there's no drone program, there's not 2 billion bullets. Speak out. Tell the truth. Show the evidence. It's on the federal government's own websites. And more people will start having the courage to tell the truth. There are a lot of people in the power structure who aren't really bad, but they're scared and isolated. Like Pat Robertson. He's coming out more and more and criticizing tyranny.
Long trains full of armored vehicles, personnel carriers with armor. What are they for? The Army going into battle against the enemy? They're used by Homeland Security against us. Ronald Reagan said the most fearful statement in the English language is, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help you."
Oh boy, I totally agree.
Imagine what Homeland Security is doing. It's just awful. But we're going to talk about how much ammunition they're stockpiling. Who are they going to shoot? Us?
I'm Alex Jones signing off for this report. For InfoWars Nightly News, be sure and subscribe to our nightly news at prisonplanet.tv. We fight the construction of the prison planet with the info war. We're working as hard as we can to create a new renaissance, a new enlightenment for humans into the 21st century, instead of the new dark age, the war against reality that the globalists are pushing. And finally, that's what the new issue of InfoWars magazine covers, available at InfoWarsStore.com. Please support our fight for liberty. Please join us in that fight. Please defend reality.
New World Order is the headline in the Globe and Mail in Canada as we listen to this caller from Queens in New York. Good morning.
Good morning. 2 quick points. First point.
Yes, these men that hypnotize followers call this a new order. It is not new. And it is not order.
All right, welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. Mike Adams, the health ranger, filling in today as the guest host for Alex. What an incredible show we've had already. Let me go through a few headlines for you very quickly, and then we're going to our guest, Dane Wigington of geoengineeringwatch.org. And thank you, by the way, all of you listeners out there. Thank you for being so responsive that you have now crashed the websites of the first 2 guests that we already had. They're all like, oh, my site's down, it's crashed. Yes, that's what happens. InfoWars really does have a huge reach, even though the White House it drives them nuts that there is such a thing as independent media. Here are some of the headlines. Cancer clinics are turning away thousands of Medicare patients. This is headline on Drudge right now. And this is the beginning of healthcare rationing under Obamacare. So if you have cancer and you want treatment, well, too bad. What's happened is the government under Obamacare has reduced the reimbursement rates for cancer treatment so much that the cancer clinics will go broke treating patients. So they're just turning them away and saying, sorry, no cancer treatment for you. Remember during the debate about Obamacare when we were promised by the Democrats that no, that would never happen in America? Everybody will get care. It won't be like the UK. It won't be like that at all. Everybody's going to get their care. Well, there you go. Once again, InfoWars proven correct again and again and again. It just keeps happening because InfoWars reports on reality. That's what that special report was just about with Alex Jones. It's about waking up to reality and not living in the delusional fabrication world that is inserted into your head by mainstream media and the White House. Now, there's another great story on InfoWars. I saw it yesterday by Kurt Nimmo. I don't recall the title, but it quotes David Stockman, who wrote a very important article in the New York Times, an opinion piece called State Wrecked, The Corruption of Capitalism in America. This article is brilliant. I'm astonished the New York Times even published it. It's absolutely brilliant. I want to encourage you to check this out. In that, David Stockman breaks down, and also Kurt Nimmo's article summarizes this, so you might find it at Infowars.com. But Stockman breaks down what is happening and why there will not be another big financial bailout. The bailouts are over. The big bankster bailouts in America will no longer work. The collapse is coming, is what he says. I'm paraphrasing. But he gives a lot of details, and this is the guy who was in the Reagan administration as a financial advisor to Reagan. I may not have the right title, but he knows what he's talking about. In other news, the ACLU, get this, says that Reid's gun control legislation could threaten privacy rights and civil liberties. So now we've got resistance on Senator Harry Reid's gun bill from the ACLU. They're concerned about this national gun registration list idea, which is essentially, a universal background check idea, which is essentially a gun registration system. So universal background checks is how the government plans to build a database of who owns guns and where they live. And you can only imagine what they want to do with that. And now even the ACLU is waking up and saying, you know, this is an invasion of your privacy, and certainly it violates the Second Amendment, which says that your right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And tracking you would be an infringement, of course. Tens of thousands of Obamacare navigators to be hired to help you navigate the complexity of the Obamacare system that is going to deny you coverage if you have cancer. How's that for fun? So now this is the government's new job creation program to have thousands of people helping you decode the highly complex Obamacare healthcare bill that no one even read before they passed it. Remember what Pelosi said? We have to pass the bill so we can find out what's in it. Wonderful system. A Bitcoin exchange was recently hacked, causing prices to temporarily tumble, but they're still way, way higher than they were just 2 weeks ago. And, well, that's it for the headlines. Let's go to our guest. Actually, I'm sorry, we're going to go to break here in just a minute, so let me just give a brief intro. His name is Dane Wigington. He's the creator of geoengineeringwatch.org. And I've never interviewed Dane before, but he's been on Coast to Coast with George Norrie and others. And he seems to know his stuff on geoengineering. And I'm going to specifically ask him about what's really going on with chemtrails, what's going on with weather modification, which we know is happening. I mean, it's openly written up in science magazines in the Middle East that they're using it to bring rain to some of the cities there. I'm going to ask him about what this means for the future of our ecosystem that produces our food. So could the ways that the governments are messing with the weather, could that cause more droughts, more floods, more storms, more food collapse all around us, which is the reason why I talked about aquaponics so much in this show, because if you're not growing your own food, you're not free, even if you have guns and ammo and gold and silver. You got to feed yourself, and you can't eat gold, folks. Gold is great, but you also need to be able to stay alive while you have it. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this break with Dane Wigington from geoengineeringwatch.org. This is Mike Adams on The Alex Jones Show. We'll be right back. All right, we're back on The Alex Jones Show. Real quick, before we go to our guest, a grand jury has indicted Antonio Buehler here in Austin for the supposed crime of filming police. So let's see. In Austin, we've been threatened with having InfoWars bumper stickers on our cars. Been told it's illegal to hand out magazines on a sidewalk, even when you're not blocking the walkway. And it's now illegal to film police. Now, they can film you because there's no expectation of privacy, but if you film them, well, then you're going to be arrested and indicted. And this has just happened. He's now facing several misdemeanors for, quote, defying lawful orders. But it's not a lawful order to tell a citizen you can't film police. So, look, all I want, and all I think Alex wants, is the restoration of actual law and liberties. That is the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. The restoration of law in America the way it was written. And we are not anti-government. We are anti-criminals in government. We would love a constitutional government to be running the show. We are pro-government. We're not we're anti-criminal. We're anti-corruption. We're anti-eugenics. We are anti-deception. We are anti-disinfo propaganda. We are anti-dehumanizing toxic chemical GMOs, vaccines with mercury, all that kind of stuff. We are pro-constitutional government running its limited role in America and pro-liberty at the same time. So now, with that said, let's go to our guest, Dane Wigington, who is the creator of geoengineeringwatch.org, a very interesting website. Let's hope that's one website that we won't crash today. So anyway, Dane joins us by phone. Thank you, Dane, and welcome to the Alex Jones Show.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for addressing the issue. And just to correct the record, I want to give credit to Mauro Oliveira for originally starting the site, and Yvonne Noctegal, a great gal without which we would have no site. But
okay, I'm sorry about that. You're running the site.
They're great people. I just want to make sure they know what we give them credit because they deserve it.
Yeah, give credit where it's due. Absolutely.
On this issue of geoengineering and the ramifications, if people truly understood the gravity of this issue, Mike, everyone would carry this torch because, as you stated before the break, people's provisions won't do them any good if they're not able to feed themselves. Those provisions won't do them any good either if they continue to inhale this toxic, metal-laden air that each and every one of us is breathing. And if we continue to be exposed to these particulates from the geoengineering fallout, we will not be firing on all neurons for much longer. And we're seeing the effects of that already with the autism and Alzheimer's reports from 2 weeks back. I mean, these particulates are bioaccumulative. They are in every breath we take. If they continue to spray, we will have nothing to care about in very short order.
Tell us about the chemical composition. I've heard of barium salts, aluminum. What really is being found in these things that are being sprayed?
Again, people need to understand that these particulates are not coming from the wind blowing or industrial sources. These are new levels of particulates, and industrial sources have been eliminated from much of the testing. And again, there's simply nowhere else they can come from. In the case of the amounts of aluminum and barium that we're seeing in tests along the West Coast, we've seen single rain events, Mike, escalate in 6 to 7 year period. In the case of aluminum, as much as 50,000%, from 7 parts per billion to 3,450 parts per billion in a single rain event. Many want to leap to the conclusion that this is coming from China. CARB, California Air Resources Board, has done studies on the aerosols from China. Metals don't float across oceans. These toxins are new. They're coming down in such extreme amounts that they're actually changing forest floor pHs 10 to 15 times toward alkaline in the Pacific Northwest. So it takes a lot of metal to actually change the pH of the forest floor.
Oh, yeah.
So what would it be doing to us in each and every breath? Again, it's actually killing trees. So certainly the bioaccumulative effect on us has to be horrific at this point, and all the medical stats seem to bear that out.
You know, Dane, I have to concur with much of what you're saying here. I'm the health ranger, the editor of Natural News, but I also oversee the raw materials acquisition for our own certified organic manufacturing and retailing operation. And we are having to reject a lot of raw materials now because we're detecting unacceptably high levels of aluminum in the materials. I'm talking about, food, superfood, plant materials, whatever. We're finding it's alarming, and we have to reject a lot of suppliers.
Well, certainly the metal's there. That's not a debate, and it's not speculation in any sense. And we're seeing other things in the mix too, Mike. There's researchers from Norway and Germany that have contacted us some time back. The last 60 rain tests they have done there have been laden with fluoride. They've eliminated industrial sources.
Crazy.
The conclusion is that now fluoride appears to be in the mix, and there are some potential weather mod aspects of fluoride as well in relationship to HAARP and the when these particles are exposed to certain radio frequency signals, they coagulate and can cause precipitation to come back down. I mean, there are some intricacies that fluoride might be used in addition to exposing the human population, which may be one of their goals as well.
Well, let's, sorry to interrupt, Dane, but let's talk about that. For those who might be new to the issue, what are really, you think, the goals of spraying these things? I mean, what is the goal? What's the end game of this? Why would they do it?
Again, I think there's a number of layers to that onion. There's military strategic purposes. We have the document Owning the Weather by the U.S. military. Obvious strategic purposes. At this point, there does appear to be weather warfare going on around the globe. You have the NATO powers on one side of the equation. You have China, Russia on the other. You have examples like Pakistan. When Pakistan started to show resistance to the U.S., suddenly they find their country 20% underwater. Same with Thailand. When they refused the U.S. An airbase there that the Thai government felt was for weather modification, then record flooding occurs there. So there's military strategic purposes. There's also food control, water control. We see the moisture flow being cut off to much of the U.S. by blanket spraying of the eastern Pacific. We post satellite imagery of that. We're not guessing. We see their blanket spraying. We know the scientific effect is to reduce the hydrological cycle. Water's cut off, then water rights are pursued. That's happening right now. So it's the disaster capitalism act all over. Then you have toxification of soils that renders seeds almost infertile, except for the DuPont aluminum-resistant seeds that are now being pushed. So, again, food control, water control, military strategic purposes, and quite simply, a population that's sick doesn't protest much, and we are all getting sick, whether we realize it or not, whether we admit it or not. It is happening.
Well, this
enough aluminum to kill a forest, enough metal, barium, strontium to kill forest trees will certainly kill us eventually.
Absolutely. And this also reiterates the importance of something I mentioned on the show here before, which is we're going to have to grow food in greenhouses, because if your food is subjected to what's falling out of the sky that's being sprayed, then you're going to obviously be intaking that in your food. So this is why I've been talking about aquaponics, because you need to have a food system that you can run yourself that's not taking in, you know, these things, these elements that are falling out of the sky, especially in some areas where they're really doing the most spraying. Now, real quick, Dane, let me just give out the phone number. For those who've got information about North Korea, if you are listening from Korea, South Korea in particular, or Japan or Taiwan, if you're nearby and you have information and you want to call in, we're going to take your calls in the last 5 minutes of the show today. The number for that is 800-259-9231. And if you're international, then that number is 651-695-7777. Again, that number for international callers is 651-695-7777. So please call in if you have information about what's happening there with Korea, and we'll take your calls in the last 5 minutes. Now, continuing, Dane, and I'm sorry about, thank you for being flexible today. We've had a lot of breaking news that sort of moved things around, so I want to thank you for your patience and your flexibility.
No worries.
So, go ahead with what is the next most important thing that people need to know to be able to protect themselves from the spraying?
Well, geoengineering needs to stop, because there's nowhere to hide from this, quite simply. If you can't walk out your door and breathe without sucking in a lungful of heavy metal, we have a problem with the first order. And again, based on all available data, we feel geoengineering to be the greatest and most immediate threat to life on Earth, short of nuclear catastrophe. It's shredding the ozone layer, altering weather patterns around the globe, blocking in relation to growing our own food. Global dimming, a term many are unfamiliar with, is now thought to be fully 22%. That means 22% of the sun's direct rays no longer reach the surface of the planet. Thus, photosynthesis is dropped, and the light that does come through is in an altered light wavelength form. We don't even know what that does to photosynthesis.
Good point.
And these toxic particulates are thwarting the entire chain of life on the microbial level, from atmospheric microbes, which we are now just beginning to learn about, soil microbes, which are literally being sterilized, which allows fungus to move in and fill the plate. So, again, the web of life from bottom to top is being thwarted by these programs. And quite simply, if they continue, we will have nothing to care about. They're shredding the ozone layer. We know that. The science is clear on that. And the ozone layer is so thin in places now, Mike, that we're seeing the bark literally burnt off the south side of native trees in the Pacific Northwest. And no ozone layer, no life on Earth. Again,
you know, it's crazy. You know, I'm not saying this is the case, but it sounds like a science fiction movie where like an alien race wants to terraform the planet. I'm not saying that I believe that's happening. It's just an illustration out of sci-fi, but it sounds like that. You know, it's like they're changing it so much. And you mentioned the pH changes. If you change the pH of the soil, you're right. You're going to create massive disease across all those soils and all the plants that grow in them, and you're going to change the nutrient uptake based on pH. You're going to really disrupt the entire ecosystem.
Based on pH alone, those factors come into play. But now we add bioavailable toxic metals. In the case of aluminum, we know quite a bit about that. Bioavailable aluminum causes most plant organisms to stop nutrient uptake. And we see this happening in the forest right now. The fir trees, yes, they have beetles, but that's only a symptom, not a cause. We know the bioavailable aluminum's there. We know its effect, and we're seeing the fallout in the forest. Trees are virtually dying everywhere. We have native plants that aren't even sprouting now. So there are so many facets to this that affect every bit of our ability to sustain life, the planet's ability to sustain life. If people understood the gravity of geoengineering, Mike, they would help us take up this torch, because quite simply, if it doesn't stop, we're very soon going to have nothing left to care about.
And on the human implications here, you know, the FDA will say you can eat a certain amount of aluminum and not be harmful, but those numbers don't take into account inhaling particulate matter.
Okay, you bring up an extremely good point. Inhaled metal particulates are much more lethal than ingested.
They have to be, yes. Orders of magnitude.
They are. And Dr. Russell Blaylock, internationally recognized neuroscientist, acknowledges this. He can be found online, that these particulates are so small, 10 nanometers in range, they go straight through the lung lining, straight into the bloodstream, where they adhere to cell receptors like a plaque, and it's almost impossible to get off. So, and it's all bioaccumulative, and this is building up in all of us. Again, whether we admit it or not is irrelevant. It is happening. So the danger posed by these programs cannot be overstated, and certainly this would appear to possibly have implications for the Agenda 21 that's now coming to light.
Yes.
It's certainly a method of controlling food supply, water supply, and it's virtually altering Earth's weather patterns so much so that now it is, in fact, triggering cataclysmic feedback mechanisms like methane mass expulsion in the Arctic, which it does appear to be triggered and does appear to be happening right now. People should look up Arctic methane emergency. And this is not about Al Gore, not about any of Al Gore's shams or
No, Al Gore was just trying to hijack something for his own political gain.
Exactly.
No, Al Gore is completely discredited as far as I'm concerned. But you know, I want to ask you a question. You seem like you have a lot of scientific training or scientific background. I don't really know you that well. This is the first time I've interviewed you, but can you speak to that? What is your background?
I have a background in renewable energy. I'm a former Bechtel Power employee. I don't know that's a four-letter word like Halliburton at this point, but I worked on one of the first commercial solar plants in the continental U.S., and that's what brought me to this issue. When I moved to the Pacific Northwest, I built a very large off-grid home that was on the cover of the world's largest renewable energy magazine. And when I began to lose 50, 60, 70, 80% of my solar PV uptake from whatever was happening in the sky, these grid patterns on intermittent days, clearly something profound was going on. And I quickly, in research, came to the topic of geoengineering. And as the gravity of this issue became apparent, filling the sky, literally saturating the atmosphere with toxic metal particulates, all of it raining down on the planet and everything that lives and breathes, I've had to put my life on hold, Mike, to research this issue, which I have done nonstop for the last 10 years. Because, again, I believe if geoengineering does not stop, we will very soon have nothing to care about. And even if it stopped today, the damage they have already done, the seeds that have already been sown in all of us with these toxic metal particulates are lethal beyond belief, and again, we will all be feeling the fallout of what's already happened.
Well, the website, folks, is geoengineeringwatch.org. That's where you will find Dane's work, and I also want to encourage you that if you want to continue to hear the truth on topics like this, like everything we've talked about today, please support InfoWars. Become a member at prisonplanet.tv. You'll have access to all the archives and all the videos, and you get 11 memberships for the price of one. I think it's just under $6 a month or somewhere in that range. It's very affordable. Dane, what's next? I mean, people have not really woken up to this issue like they have with GMOs, and GMOs is, you know, a genetic pollution risk, but geoengineering risk seems like it's at the same sort of, or maybe even a bigger threat than GMOs, but we haven't seen the big, you know, the masses rallying behind stopping geoengineering yet.
It needs to start because it virtually affects all other issues in relation to GMO foods. We have data from these German and Norwegian researchers on horizontal gene mutation that's occurring in all plant life based on their studies right now from the absorption of these metal particulates. So there is nothing that is quote-unquote truly organic at this point because of this saturation. Our bodies are absorbing, again, as I stated, these particulates, which makes us more susceptible to all the radio frequencies that we're all exposed to. So, again, from every level, from every direction, the altering of the weather, the shredding of the atmosphere, the toxification of the soils, toxification of the air we breathe, the conductivity in our bodies of these particulates, from virtually every direction, the web of life is being thwarted by these programs. This is truly the issue that, if it's not dealt with, all these other issues will be moot points, truly. Not that they're not important. They are important. But geoengineering is the issue that encompasses everything. And if people truly did some research on this, Mike, they would understand the gravity of this issue and help us expose it. And if we could expose it, we could have a chance of stopping it. Those contributing to these programs that are helping to carry out these programs, we believe, have no idea what they're involved with. And if we could make them aware, we could stop it.
Do you think this may be part of, you know, the globalists seem to have decided that the era of needing humans is over. They're trying to really, in the next few decades, destroy the human population, kill the so-called useless eaters, as they say, and move to a robotics society, an automated society, self-replicating robots with only a few thousand humans possibly, or maybe a few million surviving and then running the show. And they know they only need really a small human population to maintain genetic viability of the human species. Is this possibly all part of that design?
It may be a part of that design, but I believe, based on all available data, that there are factors in this equation that the power structure did not bargain on. And one of those is the methane mass expulsion that's being released right now. We are on course right now for something called Venus syndrome. This is a scientific scenario. The term is self-descriptive. And again, this is not about any of the Al Gore garbage.
Dane, I got to thank you for joining us. We got to let you go here and go to break, but it's geoengineeringwatch.org, everybody. I'm sorry about the short interview, Dane. I want to talk to you again.
Thanks for taking the time, Mike.
You bet. Thanks for being on. I want to talk to you again in the future. We're going to go to calls next from Korea, so stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. We're going to take some calls now, and it was kind of a long shot seeing if we could get somebody to call in from Korea, given that it's not, day over there right now. But we do have a caller from Taiwan named Aspen. So, Aspen, you're live on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Mike.
Hi there.
It's great to talk to you, and I've had actually a lot of trouble following the stream tonight. I don't know why the GCN application doesn't work very well from where I am here in Taiwan.
Well, yeah, it could be bandwidth issues, but are you seeing something interesting going on over there?
Well, I've actually been on the phone for about 2 hours tonight, trying to get through to the show, and also trying to get through to the Alex Jones store. Over here in Taiwan, what we have is a microcosm of the Asian mindset, and I've sent emails to Kurt Nemo. I know you guys get like 15,000 or something.
Yeah, it's impossible to handle it all. But what, to the point, what are you seeing?
Well, what I have learned from being here in Asia, and I am married now. I have an Asian wife. I have permanent residency here in Asia. What I have learned of the culture here is that it is completely different. I mean, fundamentally different from the Western perspective.
Sure, yeah. I lived in Taiwan. I know what you're talking about. A very different mindset.
Really?
Yeah. What city are you in? Taichung, Taiwan? Taipei, Taichung, Tainan.
Okay.
Where are you, man?
And so I've been trying to exchange emails with Catherine over in the store about.
Okay. Yeah, caller, I'm sorry. We really want to get to the point of what's going on with Korea, and I appreciate your call, but it's not really on topic. So we have another caller. We have a caller on the line here? Nope, we don't. Okay. Well, let's say this. If we had the show during the daytime in Korea, we would probably have callers from Korea, but thank you all for respecting that. Let's just go out with this. Real Clear Politics has a video of this Colorado Democrat, Diana DeGetti, and listen to what she says about gun magazines. Go ahead and roll that.
I do think that we can pass those. And just very briefly, to your last question, what's the efficacy of banning these magazine clips? I will tell you, these are ammunition. They're bullets. So the people who have those now, they're going to shoot them. And so if you ban them in the future, the number of these high-capacity magazines is going to decrease dramatically over time.
God.
Because the bullets will have been shot and there won't be any more available.
She doesn't realize magazines can be reloaded, people. Oh my God. She doesn't realize they can be reloaded. So I brought in a magazine to teach all the Democrats. Here's two things Democrats need to learn, okay? This is a 30-round mag, and this is the Constitution. Now, you may not be familiar with either one, so let me give you a quick rundown. The 30-round mag is reloaded from the top. When the bullets run out, you put new ones in it. Isn't that amazing? The These were invented, detachable magazines were invented before the automobile, so you might want to brush up on your history. The Constitution was invented even before that, in the 1700s. You might want to review this too. So there's my tips for the day for the Democrats who appear to be suffering from massive lobotomies. But thank you for listening. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, on the Alex Jones Show. Rebroadcast begins now, and thank you for joining us today. It was a great show. Alex will be back on tomorrow. Take care, everybody. But they can use this outbreak of war to then unleash the economic collapse to, for example, call in the dollar if they wanted to, replace it with another currency.
Exactly.
Rip everybody off who's got savings. Do what Cyprus did.
War is the health of the state.
Absolutely. So
all of our experts, including you, Gerald Celente, myself, all of them have concurred that when they start the real global meltdown, they're going to start huge wars.
Yeah.
And they're lining the Middle East up for that, putting Al-Qaeda in everywhere. And then we'll be conspiracy theorists when we hold up AP, Reuters, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now, when there's a giant war in the Middle East. I mean, there's already proxy wars. And we'll say, look, the government put Al-Qaeda in, and they'll say, how dare you, traitor, say that when our men are dying fighting them. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, do you believe, now, we know that North Korea has nuclear bombs. They've been testing them. They just tested one, I think, in December, right? They've been testing long-range cruise missiles. But do you believe that they have the ability to put the nuclear warheads on the missiles yet that can reach America?
We don't know. China could use them as a proxy. The Russians, we know, worked with them decades ago. The Russian border is actually very close to North Korea. They have a railway system that goes in and out of North Korea. But again, the globalist could be using the Chinese to give orders to Kim Jong-un to act like this, saying, oh, you're going to get your food and oil like you always do doing this. But this rhetoric's probably 3-4 times what it's ever been. And then they could do a false flag.
Right.
And then say they did it and start World War III.
The U.S. government or
the globalists, the criminal elements,
rogue elements,
criminal elements, yes.
Nuke a U.S. city and blame North Korea, saying North Korea brought in suitcase nukes or something like that.
Our government's been digging in like there's going to be a total collapse in America and they're going to have war with the people. Yep. They'll then use that as a smokescreen to go after us. Or they may just stage terror attacks and blame it on patriot groups. I mean, White House advisors have said that. We'll have a new Oklahoma City and blame it on you. 1 micron from admitting they did it. And remember, the current attorney general was the deputy attorney general with Oklahoma City, and the emails came out in lawsuits about how he was covering it up. Now, let's stop right there. Let me give people the headlines. North Korea moves missiles within considerable range to East Coast. Here is another headline. North Korea, AFP, approves nuclear strike on United States and says prepare for the missiles to hit you. Now, I know the globalists are evil, and they'd like us to live like North Koreans. So I'm not saying, hey, we're good, North Korea's bad. The globalists are manipulating this. But listen, under international law, common law, the fact that he says we're aiming missiles, prepare for them to go off, he said, quote, we're going to hit you, prepare for the explosions, they should be hit right there.
Absolutely.
They should be. I mean, if somebody comes to my house and says, I've got a gun, I'm about to shoot you, I've got a right to kill you. So I'm telling you, right now, they should use all the space planes with the DU Sabos to decapitate him.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm sure
those. Yeah.
But listen, that's not happening. They're going to let them, whether it's this year or 2 years from now, and I agree with Joel Scalzi, maybe 5 years from now, they're going to start World War III with this little creature.
So what about, so he's being manipulated, possibly, but he's also
and the globalists gave him the atomic bomb material.
Right.
They got primitive weapons.
What about internal pressures in North Korea? Is Kim Jong-un being forced into a radicalization of his own policy because of his own military wanting him to be strong or be overthrown?
Well, that's part of it, but I mean, compared to his father or his grandfather, I mean, these are quotes out in the official. I don't just believe our media or French news agency when they say this. I went and looked up the official, and they put it out in English. Their information ministry of the Stalinist state, and they said, we're preparing to strike you, prepare for the explosions now, we're going to hit you. And then they show maps with where we're sitting targeted.
Yeah, right, Austin.
Now, they probably can't hit us with their ICBMs. Undoubtedly, they've got DC-10s with chemical lasers circling 100 miles off that can shoot these down. They've probably been shooting the ones down that hitting the agenda. I've been in newsrooms, CNN, Fox, talk radio. You see it on the news all the time. In the background is Drudge.
Yeah.
Because they're so unimaginative. Drudge has a real pulse on what a normal guy who loves liberty is into. That's what you see there, his team of a couple guys. Okay, they know what's real. They know what's important. They've got a sixth sense. They're really smart. And so all they're doing is linking to a wide spectrum of news. And it scares the White House that they don't control the narrative because they run ABC, NBC, CBS. They're blackmailing Fox right now with the phone hacking stuff, with Justice Department investigations. You see the Media Matters run by the White House saying they're going to bring down alternative media. They want to get into all our organizations and destroy us. They're on record. So now the senior White House guy has said, quote, the Drudge Report hurts what we're trying to do. What I'm explaining is when you get to the resistance, the fact is we're in the fight. The Drudge Report, Infowars.com, everything we're doing is because it's not just Drudge more and more, we're able to set the agenda. We'll come back and break it down.
All right, we're back. This is the Alex Jones Show. Mike Adams here sitting in with Alex in studio. Go ahead, Alex.
And again, you've got your guests coming up. We'll be back for the first 20 minutes of the next hour with the latest info on North Korea. They are threatening to nuke, and not just threatening, saying prepare for the detonations. Yeah, and our government and the globalists, as usual, gave them all the weapons, just like they're putting al-Qaeda in charge. And now they're going to use this threat to take our liberty. Now, in the backdrop of this, I've explained to people, I've had the White House directly respond to us repeatedly on the Piers Morgan petition, on how they're trying to shut down coal power plants, saying I'm crazy. That was Carney that responded. I've had them respond to me many times directly, but hundreds of times through their surrogate Media Matters, which is publicly run by their former transition chief, and is a saboteur group. In their own words, they say, we will get hired, we will infiltrate. Politico's basically another group. So all of this is going on. My point to listeners is we need your prayers. We need your financial support. We need to be big and strong. We need you to spread the word about DrudgeReport.com, Infowars.com, NaturalNews.com, WorldNetDaily.com. I'd say Newsmax, but they've kind of faded off. I mean, they still, you know, all these groups, because look, Drudge isn't perfect. I'm not perfect. All of us disagree with stuff. I disagree with some stuff a day after I say it in hindsight or how I said it. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, little Alex Jones, little Matt Drudge, little Mike Adams. I mean, sure, we're big hearts. We love liberty, but we're little guys.
Yeah, we're individuals.
We're individuals. But this is an example to the power you have that the head White House advisor, the head, this is the real president. This is above Karl Rove under Bush. You know, this is what's loaded in the teleprompters, what Obama does. Okay, says, quote, Drudge hurts what we're trying to do.
Which is to control and disinform.
Yeah, and folks, by the way, they killed Breitbart. I mean, there's undoubtedly the way they did everything. Listen, they could kill me tomorrow. Okay, and let me tell you, we need to, if anything happens to Drudge, you need to know, which it's not because we're talking about it. But this isn't a game, okay? Okay, I get death threats at home where they tell me what my wife was talking about on the phone with her dad, okay? This is real. Okay, so I want to get this through your head. Let's go ahead and play this clip. Here he is on C-SPAN. This is up on Infowars.com right now. It rolled off Drudge because he doesn't like talking about himself. But I'm going to. This is on Infowars.com right now. Business Insider. This is him talking about Drudge and how it's dangerous. They've got to have an iron fist of control because they can't control the media, and what they do might get picked up by Drudge. And you know, he's discredited, though. He has no power. When all Drudge will do is show what they said. That's why he's so powerful.
He's the ultimate power.
He just the truth. He just shows what they did. Yeah. He doesn't even, no one ever sees him or hears him. It's them.
Right.
They've been trying to, quote, launch over Japan. So I'm going to say this. They've had DC-10s for 20 years, declassified, that can vaporize with chemical lasers, and the newer ones have cyclotrons added onto them, so they're chemical weapons. Excuse me, particle beams, not chemical weapons. These are chemical laser.
Yeah, chemical laser.
With a cyclotron on top. And, I mean, these are lasers that are the whole length of the plane.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
Right.
And so, I mean, the declassified stuff was vaporizing armored missiles, 20 years ago. So if a missile gets through, okay, I'm going to be very suspicious because, A, he's got, 1970s piece of junk type ICBMs.
Nothing they build ever works.
The Stalin estate can't even produce automobiles.
Right.
The globalists have given them everything they've got. It's very hard to get one of these into orbit, much less back in. And so if it doesn't get shot down, the globalists have some explaining to do.
But they could put a portable nuke, a suitcase nuke, on a container shipping out of South Korea to, for example, the port of Seattle. And they could detonate it.
Well, that's the new real threat. And so instead of boarding Syrian craft and Russian craft who are getting small arms to protect themselves, against al-Qaeda, which our government's doing, they're boarding those to stop even machine guns being shipped to Syria. all North Korean vessels should be boarded everywhere.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they shouldn't even be allowed to leave their port because, as you said, that's the new threat. Associated Press, they're saying they have small tacticals that can be delivered in unconventional ways, i.e. barges. And they ship goods into South Korea and into China, which actually come here. So I'm calling for an embargo of all Chinese goods because you can't trust these containers.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Also, the false flag element. Again, the globalists could detonate a nuke in a container 10 miles off the coast of Oregon or Washington
or Long Beach. Just get it into the port. They don't even search them.
And then they could say, well, that's the excuse. It's martial law.
That's it.
The hammer comes down.
That's it.
And by the way, then you can't buy bullets, guns, magazines, food, anything.
I want to explain something about Kim Jong-un and Il and all these other demons. They, on record, kidnap stars of South Korea and Japan, and they have B movie stars and C movie stars fly in. It's not just Dennis Rodman, to service them. And they've got all sorts of, torture palaces. I mean, these are incarnate what the globalists would love to be.
Yeah.
I mean, this is their Agenda 21 plan, total deindustrialization, total hell, tiny subcompact cities that have power, the rest of the country dark, the public literally living in like the 15th century. The people there don't even know what planet they're on, basically.
Well, I thought you were describing Austin just there for a second. I think he won't nuke Austin because that's his fan base.
Yeah, all these sick trendies that think it's funny. Now, shifting gears to
Sorry to interject.
No, you're absolutely right.
Topic.
Shifting gears here to something I want to talk about. The alternative media is under attack because we are the real media. When we come back from break, I want to go to this clip, and then you can get on to your next guest. And we have a lot of important stuff to cover. And I'll be back at the start of the next hour with updates. And then we got the special report at the start of the third hour on them denying there's a new world order, and we're going to show some clips of that.
And if anything else happens in the meantime, you'll be here immediately to break it down.
Absolutely. And people call everybody you know. Tell them to tune in because here's the message. Here's the message. The Drudge Report is at the very top of the Liberty pyramid. Not to use an Illuminati term. That's how they look at it.
Yeah.
At the very top is Matt Drudge and drudgereport.com. Okay. If they can take him down, or if they can demonize him, or if they can discredit that site, which all it does is link to a wide spectrum of news, mainstream, alternative, government documents, our stuff, everything. If they can take him down, it's not just that it has the most traffic of any news website in the world. It's that it's set. It is your PrisonPlanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal.
Welcome to the Alex Jones Show. It is Thursday, April 4th, 2013, and we are on the verge of war in North Korea. That is the emphasis of the topic today, but a lot of discussion happening here on the Alex Jones Show. This is Mike Adams, the guest hosting for Alex, but Alex is here in studio right now, and we'll be dropping in from time to time with special reports and breaking news on North Korea. We've got a couple of guests today, 3 in fact. 2 of them talking about important decentralized, self-replicating food self-reliance technology that you will need if war breaks out and if martial law is declared and things begin to really implode. We've also got a guest on geoengineering coming up in the 3rd hour. But again, the main emphasis today is North Korea on the verge of war, threatening America with nuclear strikes. And here to tell us what's going to be happening in that realm is Alex Jones. Alex?
Mike, absolutely. I was going to come in today and work on some of the administrative things in the new studio that you can see they're building over there and all the work we're doing. But we were talking last night, and you're like, you really want me to do the show tomorrow? Because all this North Korea stuff, and you're absolutely right, this is incredibly important. And you also have the calls to censor the internet going on, not just here, but in Europe, trying to mirror the communist Chinese. So we've got those attacks going on. And we're going to talk about senior advisor Dan Pfeiffer. This is the senior advisor to the president. This is who the globalists, tell Obama what to do through. This is the guy that helps load the teleprompter. This is the guy that chooses the speeches predominantly that Obama is going to have loaded into his teleprompter. He is bemoaning on C-SPAN the Drudge Report. And when he attacks the Drudge Report and tells the media not to go read it, but it doesn't have the power it used to because it has more power.
Right.
It shows that they're scared of the entire alternative media, and it also shows that we're having an effect because they're not all powerful. They want to be in big glistening glass buildings and marble buildings and millions of troops in black uniforms and armored vehicles and bullets to intimidate those of us that are awake, but then to deny to the public that all this exists. So also at the start of the third hour, we have that 10-minute report proving the New World Order is real and showing their hoaxes that premiered on the nightly news last night. We're going to premiere that on the radio side today at 1:08, the start of the third hour. Then you've got your geoengineering expert coming on. Again, they say geoengineering doesn't exist. Now they admit there's giant government secret programs that we told people about 17 years ago. So all of that and more. But I've followed the Korean conflict from the 50s and Eisenhower and the rest of it. I follow it very closely. We've always known it may be the trigger for World War III. As Lindsey Williams' sources said, the Middle East is a distraction. It's important, but watch China, North Korea.
Skousen's talked about it.
This is the real trigger. And I respect Skousen, but he could be wrong. This trigger could come sooner rather than later. I think this probably is insane rhetoric to get more oil and food. But the point is that Kim Jong-un is completely out of his mind.
He is, absolutely.
And China's rebuking him right now, and that's really unprecedented. North Korea last night when we talked, had just issued their own fatwa. North Korea approves a nuclear strike on the United States, says they're preparing, and they also say they have frogs, or short-range tactical nuclear weapons that they're going to use. And we know that Russia's been involved with them decades ago. They may have frogs, or they may be used, or they may be pushed by China that at higher levels working with the Illuminati and the globalists. Again, China isn't run by the U.S. It's run by the New World Order and the communists, just like we are.
Right.
Okay, or the oligarchs who use communism. It's really a eugenics state. Communism is just a label, a slave state. And so the fact that Donald Rumsfeld helped transfer in 1996 the ABB reactors from Switzerland that could build fissile material or produce fissile material for A-bombs, the fact that Laura Allen Hughes through China helped give them the ICBM technology. The globalists have armed North Korea for this role. Is it coming early? We always said they'd break out with a giant war, as Rand Corporation called for, during the economic collapse. So if this heats up, the economic collapse is around the corner, Mike.
And they're specifically threatening to nuke Austin, by the way. Another interesting twist to their litany of threats. This is the Alex Jones Show. We'll be right back with Alex and other guests straight ahead. Stay with us. Welcome to the Alex Jones Show on this Thursday, April 4th, 2013, as the nation stands on the verge of potential war, or at least the threat of war. This is all breaking news and special reports here on the Alex Jones Show. Alex is in studio and will be delivering that special information here in just 1 minute. We've got missile defense systems being sent to Guam now. The United States is taking these threats seriously as North Korea's psycho leader, Kim Jong-un, says he's going to nuke America, including cities like Austin. Alex is here with special reports to give us a breakdown of what's happening, and then we'll have guests on at the bottom of this hour and the next hour. But let's go right to Alex with the latest on North Korea.
Absolutely, Mike. Thank you. Here's just some of the headlines. And this is unprecedented in the 60 years since the armistice was signed at the end of the Korean War. This is unprecedented, this type of rhetoric, and even though it may be rhetoric, and we hope it's rhetoric, this is unprecedented. There are criminal globalist forces that manipulate the U.S., Europe, China, and are pushing them all towards an authoritarian system. Our government's trying to adopt Chinese-style policies of one child and internet censorship and kill switches. And that's because the globalists went in and put Mao Zedong in power. And the reason I talk about China when I talk about North Korea is because the New World Order controls and manipulates the communist Chinese regime to a great level. So the New World Order steers and controls China, and China steers and controls, to a great extent, the puppet state, the kamikaze state of North Korea, the Stalinist state that literally is the most oppressive probably in world history, and certainly the most delusional. And it's important to add that ABB was headed up in 1996 by Donald Rumsfeld, who got authorization from Bill Clinton and also the United Nations to transfer reactor types that can be easily used to build and create the fissile material for atomic bombs. So I'm giving people some backstory here that we've always known that North Korea is the real trigger to look at, not even the Middle East, for a true new world war. And remember, 2 years ago, Rand Corporation said, we need a global war to smokescreen the economic implosion, to get people to rally behind all their governments, from China to Europe to the United States to England to Australia especially, so that everyone will get behind their governments during this crisis. So,
but that's the key, is that the New World Order can use this. I'm sorry